My father didn't raise his voice when he shattered my world. He delivered the news with the casual authority of a man discussing the weather. He told me they were delaying the funds for Lila's surgery because my brother, Evan, needed a workboat. In one sentence, my parents weighed my 8-year-old daughter's pain against her uncle's vague promise of a new career. And the boat won. I didn't scream. I just realized I was finally, truly on my own. The fluorescent lights of the Northbridge Rehab Clinic hummed with a sound that only I seemed to hear. It was a low, electric buzz, a frequency that burrowed right behind my eyes by 3 in the afternoon. My fingers moved across the keyboard in a rhythm I had perfected over 5 years as a medical billing specialist. I lived in a world of codes. CPT codes, ICD-10 codes, modifiers that could mean the difference between a claim being paid or denied. I knew that a missed digit meant a patient got a bill for $500 they did not have. I knew that a specific phrasing in a doctor's notes could trigger a medical necessity denial. I was the gatekeeper between the chaos of human health and the cold, binary logic of insurance companies. I pressed enter, sending a corrected claim for a knee replacement off into the digital ether, and glanced at the photo taped to the bottom of my monitor. Lila. She was missing her 2 front teeth in the picture, smiling with that squinty-eyed joy that made her look exactly like my father. Though I tried not to dwell on the resemblance, she was 8 years old now, and the smile was tighter these days. My phone buzzed on the desk. It was a reminder I had set for myself. Call Briar Glen's scheduling. I did not need the reminder. The number was already dialed in my head. I picked up the handset, my other hand instinctively going to the red folder that sat on the corner of my desk. I did not open it. I knew every line of the estimate inside. Lila needed surgery. It was not the kind of surgery that made people rush to the emergency room with sirens wailing. It was a structural correction, a procedure to fix a congenital issue with her ureters that caused chronic infections and low-grade kidney stress. If we waited, the damage would accumulate, the scarring would worsen, the anxiety of every fever would continue to eat away at both of us. If we did it now, before her next growth spurt, she would be fine. She would be free. The scheduling coordinator, a woman named Sarah, who had a voice like sandpaper wrapped in velvet, answered on the second ring. Briar Glen Children's Pavilion. This is Sarah. Hi, Sarah. It is Claire Watson, I said, keeping my voice professional. I was not a panicked mother. I was a billing specialist. I spoke the language. I am calling to confirm the hold on the slot for February 14th. Let me pull that up. Claire, Sarah said. I heard her typing. The silence stretched for 10 seconds, heavy and thick. Okay, I see it. Doctor, Evans has the block reserved. We just need the financial clearance by this Friday to keep it locked. You know how the operating room schedules get. If we lose the spot, the next opening isn't until late August. August. 6 months of antibiotics. 6 months of watching Lila wince when she used the bathroom. 6 months of waking up at 2 in the morning to check her forehead for heat. I know, I said. I have the insurance approval letter. The prior authorization number is on file. Right, Sarah said, and her voice dropped a gentle octave. But the deductible and the 20% coinsurance. Claire, the system flags it because of the high balance. We need a payment arrangement for the patient responsibility portion before we can finalize the admission. It is $3,400. $3,400. It was not a fortune to some people. To the doctors walking past my cubicle in their tailored scrubs, it was a weekend trip. To me, it was 2 months of rent, plus utilities, plus groceries, plus the car insurance. I had savings, but my savings were a fragile ecosystem. I had $1,800 tucked away for emergencies. If I drained it, one flat tire or one broken water heater would ruin us. I understand, I said, my voice steady. I will have it sorted by Friday. Okay, Sarah said. Just call me back with the card number or the plan details. You are a good mom. Claire, we will get her taken care of. I hung up and stared at the screen. Being a good mom did not pay the bills. being a good mom meant swallowing your pride and making the call you promised yourself you would never make again. I waited until I was in my car to call them. My sedan was 10 years old, a reliable gray box that smelled faintly of vanilla and the damp wool of Lila's mittens, which were currently shoved into the passenger door pocket. I sat in the parking lot of the clinic, watching the gray Michigan sky threaten snow. I dialed my father's number first. He answered on the third ring. Richard Watson. He always answered like he was picking up a line at a corporate office, even though he had been retired from middle management for 4 years. "Hi, Dad," I said. "Do you have a minute?" "I am in the garage," he said. "Your mother is making a roast. What is it?" "It is about Lila," I said. I hated how my voice pitched up, instantly younger, instantly seeking approval. I cleared my throat and forced the professional tone back into place. "We got the scheduling call for her surgery. It is set for February 14th. The insurance is approved. But there is a gap." "A gap," he repeated. He did not ask how Lila was feeling. He latched onto the financial term. "Yes, the deductible resets in January, and with the coinsurance, the hospital requires an upfront payment of $3,400. I have about half of it covered without touching our emergency floor, but I need help with the rest. Just until tax season, I can pay you back in April." There was a noise in the background, the sound of metal on metal. He was organizing his tools. He organized his tools when he did not want to deal with emotions. "You know we have strict budgets. Claire," he said, "retirement is fixed income. We aren't printing money over here." "I know. Dad, I would not ask if it wasn't for Lila. The doctor says waiting until August risks permanent scarring on her kidneys. We need to do this now. Always a crisis," he muttered. "You always make everything so dramatic. August is not that far away." "It is 6 months of pain for her," I said, gripping the steering wheel. "Please, let me put you on speaker. Your mother just walked in." There was a fumbling sound, and then the acoustic quality of the call changed. I could hear the echo of their garage. "Hi, Claire," my mother's voice floated through the speaker. Marlene Watson. Her voice was always light, airy, as if she were floating slightly above the messy realities of life. "Is everything okay?" "She needs money for Lila's surgery," Dad said bluntly. $3,000. $3,400, I corrected. "But I only need help with $2,000 to be safe. I can pay you back." "Oh, the poor thing," Mom said. "Of course we want her to be well. Is it really that expensive? Have you checked the billing codes? You know hospitals make mistakes." "I do this for a living." "Mom," I said. "I checked the codes. It is correct." "Well," Mom said, and I could picture her smoothing her apron, "we can move some things around. But Claire, we need to be practical. If we do this, I want access to the portal. I want to see the invoices myself. And I want you to send over your budget. We need to make sure you aren't leaking money elsewhere." It was a trap I had walked into a dozen times before. Money came with oversight. Help came with judgment. But I thought of Lila wincing when she pulled her knees to her chest last night. "Fine," I said. "I will email you the invoice. I will show you the budget. I just need the funds available by Thursday, so I can pay Friday morning." "We can do that," Dad said. "But no more surprises. Claire, you need to get your house in order." "Thank you," I said, the words tasting like ash. "I appreciate it. Truly." "Come for dinner tonight," Mom added. "I made a pot roast. Bring Lila. We want to see her before she goes under the knife." "It is not going under the knife, Mom," I said. "It is laparoscopic." "Just come," she said. 6 o'clock. I picked Lila up from the after-school program at 4:30. She was sitting at the craft table, gluing cotton balls to a piece of blue construction paper. When she saw me, she launched herself into my arms, smelling of glue and peanut butter. "Is it a cloud?" I asked, looking at her artwork. "It is a sheep in a blizzard," she said seriously. "Very creative," I said. "Hey, guess what? We are going to Grandma and Grandpa's for dinner." Lila's face lit up. She loved them. She did not know about the strings. She only knew that Grandma Marlene had a jar of butterscotch candies and Grandpa Richard let her sit in his big leather chair. "Can I bring my tablet?" she asked. "No tablet tonight," I said. "We are going to talk and hang out, but first, we need to do our brave talk." In the car, parked in our driveway before we went inside to change, I turned in my seat to face her. "Remember we talked about the doctors helping your tummy?" I asked. Lila nodded, looking down at her Velcro sneakers. "The fix?" "That is right, the fix. It is going to be on Valentine's Day, which is kind of cool, right? You will get to have popsicles and watch movies all day." "Will it hurt?" she asked. Her voice was small. "It might be a little sore after." I admitted. I never lied to her. "Like when you scraped your knee last summer. But the doctors have medicine to make the sore go away. And once it is done, you won't have those tummy aches anymore. You can run as fast as you want at recess." "Okay," she said. "And," I added, reaching into my purse, "we are going to start the bravery jar." I pulled out a small mason jar I had bought at the dollar store. I had written Lila's bravery on the side in gold marker. "Every day that we do something to get ready, like packing your bag, or drinking your extra water, or going to the doctor, we put a marble in. When the jar is full after the surgery, we go to the toy store. Deal?" She smiled then. A real smile. "Deal." "Can I put a marble in now, for talking about it?" "Absolutely," I said. We went inside, and I watched her drop a blue marble into the glass. It made a satisfying clink. I wished I had a jar. I wish someone would give me a marble for not screaming at my father on the phone. The drive to Hollow Fern took 40 minutes. It was a wealthier town than Briar Glen, with wider streets and houses that sat further back from the road. My parents lived in a 2-story brick colonial with immaculate landscaping, even in winter. The hedges were trimmed into sharp, geometric boxes. When we walked in, the smell of roasting meat and rosemary filled the hallway. It was the smell of my childhood, comforting and suffocating all at once. "There they are." Mom came out of the kitchen, wiping her hands on a towel. She hugged Lila tight. "Oh, look at you. You are getting so tall." Dad was in the living room, watching the news. He muted the television when we walked in, but did not stand up. "Hi, Dad," I said. "Hey," he said. "Drive okay?" Roads looked slick. "They were fine," I said. "I set the table," Mom said. "Go wash up." We were sitting down, passing the bowl of mashed potatoes, when the front door opened. A gust of cold wind swept through the hallway, followed by a voice that was too loud for the quiet house. "Do not tell me I missed the potatoes." My stomach tightened. I knew that voice. Evan. My brother walked into the dining room, grinning. He was wearing a leather jacket that looked expensive but distressed, and his hair was windblown in a way that looked perfectly styled. He was 38, 5 years older than me, but he had the energy of a college student on spring break. "Evan!" Mom practically shrieked. She stood up, abandoning her napkin. "I did not know you were coming." "Surprise?" Evan said, hugging her, lifting her slightly off the floor. He looked at Dad. "Hey, old man?" Dad actually smiled, a real, crinkling smile. "Good to see you, son. Pull up a chair." Evan ruffled Lila's hair as he sat down next to me. "Hey, calm down, kiddo. Don't look so excited to see your favorite uncle." "Hi, Uncle Evan," Lila said, shyly. "Hey, Ev," I said. "Where have you been? Last I heard you were in Florida." "Florida was a bust," Evan said, piling potatoes onto his plate. "Too humid, no vision. I needed to come back to my roots. Michigan is where the real opportunity is." I focused on cutting my roast beef. "What kind of opportunity?" "A big one," Evan said. He leaned back, fork in hand, commanding the room. "I am done with the small stuff. Claire, no more sales gigs, no more startups that go nowhere. I am talking about infrastructure, logistics." "That sounds serious," I said. "It is," Dad said, leaning forward. Evan was telling me about it on the phone last week. It sounds like a solid plan. I looked at Dad. He had known Evan was coming. He had spoken to him last week. When I called today, begging for help for Lila, he hadn't mentioned Evan was back. "It is a work boat," Evan said, his eyes shining. "Up at Silver Pike Marina. There is a contract coming up for dredging and transport along the lakefront. The guy selling the boat, it is a heavy-duty tug. Basically, he needs to unload it fast. He is offering it for a fraction of the value. If I can secure that boat, I can bid on the contract. We are talking 6 figures in the first year." "A boat," I repeated. "You are going to buy a tugboat. It is an investment," Mom said quickly, pouring gravy over Evan's meat. "It is tangible. Claire, real assets." "Do you know how to operate a tugboat?" I asked. Evan laughed. "It is not rocket science, Claire. Plus, the boat comes with a crew option for the first month. I manage the business. I am the CEO, not the deckhand." "It sounds wonderful, Evan," Mom said. "A fresh start." "Exactly," Evan said. "Turning the page. I am nearly 40. It is time to build something real. Dad gets it, right, Dad?" "It has potential," Dad said, nodding. "The numbers look interesting." I sat there, chewing my food, feeling the familiar dynamic settle over us like a heavy blanket. Evan had a dream. The dream was vague, expensive, and shiny. My parents were captivated by the shine. My reality, Lila's surgery, the invoices, the fear, was dull and tedious by comparison. "Well," I said, trying to keep the bitterness out of my voice, "I hope it works out. Lila is having surgery in 2 weeks, by the way." Evan paused. "Oh yeah? What for?" "Her kidneys," I said. "We talked about it at Christmas." Right, Evan said. "She will be fine. Kids bounce back. Tougher than they look." "Right. Lila?" Lila nodded, mouthing a piece of carrot. "We are handling it," Dad said abruptly, looking at me. "Your mother and I are helping Claire with the balance." "That is nice of you," Evan said, but his eyes flickered. He looked from Dad to Mom, a quick, calculating glance. "Family helps family. That is the rule." I checked my phone under the table. I had sent the invoice to Mom's email before we left the house. I needed a confirmation. I needed it in writing. I waited until dessert, apple pie that Mom had bought from the bakery but played it as if she made it, to bring it up again. "Mom, did you get the email?" I asked. "With the hospital invoice?" "I saw it come through," she said, cutting a slice for Evan. "I will look at it in the morning. Don't worry so much." "I need to pay it Friday," I reminded her. "We said we would handle it," she said, her voice sharpening just a fraction. "Eat your pie." After dinner, while Mom was showing Lila a collection of porcelain birds in the living room, I went to use the restroom. The hallway floorboards were old and creaky, but I knew where to step to be silent. It was a habit from high school, sneaking in late. I heard Evan's voice coming from the den. The door was cracked open. "No, listen to me," Evan was saying. His voice was low, urgent, stripped of the dinner table charm. "He is on board. I saw his face. He wants this to work as much as I do. Yeah, the money is there. He has it sitting in the credit union. No, the boat payment has to happen before the inspection date or the deal dies. I know. It is a lock. Just have the papers ready." I froze. The money is there. The boat payment. He laughed then, a short, sharp bark of a sound. "Yeah, Claire is here. Same old Claire, worrying about pennies. No, Dad won't let that get in the way. He sees the big picture." A cold sensation started in the center of my chest and radiated outward, numbing my fingertips. He sees the big picture. I wanted to kick the door open. I wanted to scream that my daughter's surgery was not pennies. I wanted to grab him by his expensive leather jacket and shake him until he admitted he was a fraud. But I didn't. I was 33 years old. I was a mother. If I caused a scene now, If I looked dramatic or emotional, like Dad always said, I gave them an excuse to cut me off. I needed that money. I needed Lila fixed. I stepped back, turned around, and flushed the toilet in the powder room to create noise. When I walked back out, Evan was coming out of the den, sliding his phone into his pocket. "Hey," he said, smiling easily. "Just checking in with a potential client." "Sounds promising," I said. My voice sounded flat, robotic. "It is," he said. He reached out and squeezed my shoulder. "You look tired. Claire, you should take a break." "I can't," I said. "I have a daughter to raise." His smile faltered for a second, then returned. "Right, the good mom." He walked past me toward the kitchen. Whistling, the drive home was quiet. Lila fell asleep 5 minutes in, her head lolling against the booster seat wing. I drove with the radio off, listening to the tires hum on the asphalt. "Don't worry," Mom had said. "We will handle it." I clung to those words. They were my parents. They loved Lila. They wouldn't promise and then pull the rug out. Not for a surgery, not for health. Evan was just talking big, like he always did. Dad wouldn't drain his liquidity for a boat when he knew I had a medical deadline. When we got home, I carried Lila to bed. She was heavy, her limbs song and gangly. I took off her shoes and covered her with the duvet. She murmured something about the sheep in the blizzard and turned over. I went to the kitchen and opened my laptop. I pulled up my budget spreadsheet. I created a new column, surgery payment. I entered the amount, $3,400. I entered the source, savings, $1,400. Parents, $2,000. I stared at the numbers. They balanced. If the money came Friday, we were fine. I could pay rent. I could buy groceries. I could pay the copay for her post-op meds. I tried to breathe. I tried to tell myself that the cold squeeze in my chest was just paranoia. Then my phone chimed. It was a text from Dad. I picked it up, expecting a confirmation about the transfer time, or maybe a note about how good it was to see us. The screen lit up the dark kitchen. Richard Watson. "Call me tomorrow. Important." 2 words. Important. Not good night. Not love you. My stomach dropped. A physical sensation of falling. Important, in my family, never meant good news. Important meant a change of plans. Important meant a lecture. I looked at the time. It was 9:30, too late to call back. He would be asleep, or pretending to be. He wanted me to stew. He wanted me to wait until morning. I put the phone down face down on the counter. I walked back into Lila's room. She was breathing deeply, a soft rhythm that filled the silence. I sat on the edge of her bed and smoothed the hair back from her forehead. Her skin was warm. "Mom," she whispered, eyes still closed. "I am here, baby," I said. "Is the fix still coming?" she asked, half asleep. I swallowed the lump in my throat. I looked at the bravery jar on her dresser, with its single blue marble. "Yes," I said. My voice was steady. I made it steady. "The fix is coming. Everything is going to be perfect." She sighed and drifted back to sleep. I stayed there in the dark, listening to her breathe, wondering if I had just lied to my daughter. I would fix it. I didn't know how yet, but if they backed out, I would sell the car. I would sell my furniture. I would scrub floors at night. I watched the rise and fall of her chest. Call me tomorrow. I knew, with a terrible, sinking certainty, that tomorrow was going to hurt. I did not sleep well. I dreamed of water. Dark, cold lake water, rising up around my ankles, then my knees. I was trying to hold Lila above my head, but my feet were stuck in the mud. I looked toward the shore and saw a boat, a large, rusted tugboat. Evan was on the deck, waving. Dad was at the wheel. Mom was taking pictures. "Help!" I screamed. "She can't swim!" "It is a workboat." "Claire!" Evan yelled back, his voice carried by the wind. "We are investing." They motored away, leaving us in the wake. I woke up at 5:30, my heart hammering against my ribs. The sky outside was pitch black. I got up, made coffee, and sat at the kitchen table. I opened the email I had sent Mom. The invoice was attached. The subject line was clear: Lila surgery, invoice account info. There was no reply. I checked my bank account. No pending transfers. I checked the time. 6 o'clock. Dad would be up. He woke up at 5 every day to read the paper. I picked up my phone. My thumb hovered over his contact. Call me tomorrow. I could call now. I could get it over with. But if I called now, and he said what I was afraid he would say, I would have to wake Lila up and get her ready for school while I was falling apart. I would have to look her in the eye and tell her to be brave while I was terrified. No, I would wait. I would get her to school. I would go to work. I would be in my office, with my door closed, surrounded by my codes and my logic. I put the phone down. Mom? Lila stood in the hallway, rubbing her eyes. She was wearing her dinosaur pajamas. Good morning, sleepyhead, I said, forcing a smile onto my face. It felt tight, like a mask that didn't quite fit. Is it toast day? She asked. It is definitely toast day, I said. With cinnamon sugar? Yes. She pumped her fist and ran to the table. I made the toast. I poured the juice. I packed her lunch, a ham sandwich, an apple, and a note that said, "You are brave." I watched her eat, watching the way her jaw moved, the way she swung her legs under the chair. She was so small. She relied on me for everything: food, shelter, safety, truth. Mom, you aren't eating, she said. I am just not hungry yet, I said. I am saving my appetite. For what? For later, I said. I drove her to school. The drop-off line was a snake of red taillights. I kissed her forehead as she climbed out. Have a good day, I said. Fill the jar. Bye, Mom. She slammed the door and ran toward the building, her backpack bouncing against her winter coat. I watched her until she disappeared inside the double doors. Then I gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. I turned the car toward the clinic, toward the phone, toward the inevitable. Call me tomorrow. Tomorrow was here. I pulled into the parking lot at 7:45. The wind was biting, whipping my hair across my face as I walked to the entrance. I badged in, the scanner beeping its cheerful little acceptance. I walked to my desk. I turned on my computer. I watched the screens flicker to life. I took a deep breath. I picked up the phone and dialed my father. It rang once, twice. Richard Watson? Hi, Dad, I said. I am calling. Claire, he said. His voice was different than yesterday. It was firmer, harder. I am glad you called. We need to talk about the surgery. Okay, I said. We have been looking at the numbers, he said, and we have been talking to Evan. I closed my eyes. And we think we need to rethink the timeline, he said. The floor seemed to tilt beneath my chair. What does that mean, Dad? It means, he said, that we can't do the transfer right now. Not for Friday. I didn't say anything. I couldn't. The silence stretched out, filled with the buzzing of the fluorescent lights. Claire? He asked. I am here, I whispered. It is just a delay, he said. Just a change in strategy. Strategy. I opened my eyes and looked at the picture of Lila taped to my monitor. Okay, I said, my voice sounding like it belonged to a stranger. Tell me. And then I waited for the blow to land. Tell me, I said again, my voice sounding thin and brittle in the quiet of the office. It is a liquidity issue, my father said. He used the tone he used to use when explaining why we could not get cable television in 1998. It was a tone of reasonable, masculine authority that was designed to make any objection sound hysterical. Evan has an opportunity to acquire this vessel at a distress price, but the seller demands cash, immediate transfer. If we miss this window, the contract for the dredging work goes to a competitor. I gripped the phone so hard the plastic casing creaked. You are buying him a boat. We are investing in a business asset, Richard corrected me. A revenue-generating asset. You have to understand the strategy here. Claire, if we put the money into the surgery right now, That capital is gone. It is a sunk cost. If we put it into the boat, Evan starts billing clients by March. He can pay us back, and then we pay for the surgery. It is a bridge. We are just building a bridge. My mind whirled, trying to process the logic. He was talking about my daughter's kidney function as a sunk cost. He was talking about a theoretical dredging contract as if it were a treasury bond. Dad, I said, forcing myself to look at the calendar on my wall. Lila is scheduled for February 14th. That is 2 weeks away. The hospital requires the payment this Friday. That is 3 days from now. If you buy the boat, when exactly does Evan pay you back? Well, business takes time to ramp up, he said. Vague now, the crispness slipping. 30 days, maybe 60. That is why we need to push the surgery back. Just a few months, April or May. I cannot push it back, I said. The doctor said, Doctors always want to fill their schedules, he interrupted. They create urgency to close the deal. It is sales. Claire, you work in billing. You know how they pad the codes. This is not a code, I said. This is a structural defect in her body. If she gets another infection while we wait for Evan's imaginary dredging contracts, she could have permanent renal scarring. Do you understand that? There you go, he sighed. The sound was like a heavy door closing. You always make everything emotional. I am trying to discuss family finances and cash flow, and you are talking about scarring. You catastrophize. It is your worst trait. I am not catastrophizing, I said. I am parenting. Richard, let me speak to her. It was my mother's voice on the line. She must have been listening on the extension. Hi, Mom, I said. I felt a tiny, foolish spark of hope. Mom would understand. Mom was the one who bought Lila the special hypoallergenic pillows. Mom was the one who texted me hearts. Claire, honey, she said, her voice soft and soothing, the way you talk to a frightened dog. Listen to your father. He has been up all night running the spreadsheets. We want to help you. We really do. But Evan, he is in a fragile place. This boat? It is the first time in years I have seen a light in his eyes. If we say no to him now, I am afraid of what he might do. He might give up. We could lose him. The spark of hope died. Cold and instant. So you are choosing his mood over Lila's health, I said. That is not fair, she said, sounding wounded. That is a cruel thing to say. We are balancing the needs of the whole family. Lila is strong. She is a tough little cookie. She can wait a few weeks. Kids bounce back. Claire, they are resilient. God designed them that way. Resilience is not a medical plan. Mom, I said. My voice was trembling now, vibrating in my chest. Rescheduling is not harmless. It means more antibiotics. It means keeping her out of gym class. It means she wakes up crying because her side hurts. Just give her some Tylenol, Mom said, and pray about it. We have to look at the long game. Evan is finally stepping up. This is an investment in his future. And when he succeeds, he is going to help you. He said so. He said, the first check goes to Lila. Isn't that sweet? I felt bile rise in my throat. It was not sweet. It was a lie. A lie wrapped in a fantasy, wrapped in a betrayal. I need a date, I said. I looked at the spreadsheet on my screen, the cursor blinking in the column I had labeled parents. If you are not paying Friday, when are you paying? Give me a date. We cannot give you a hard date. Claire, Richard said, his voice hard again. It depends on the marina traffic. Stop badgering us. We are doing the best we can. You should be grateful we are even willing to discuss this. Most parents would tell you to figure it out yourself since you were the one who decided to be a single mother. The air left the room. There it was, the old weapon, the one they kept in a glass case for special occasions. I see, I said. My voice was very quiet. I understand the strategy now. We love you, Mom said, sensing the fracture. We just need you to be flexible. Call the hospital. Tell them you have a family emergency. They will understand. I have to go, I said. I have to get back to work. Call us when you have calmed down, Dad said. I hung up the phone. I sat there for 5 seconds, staring at the gray fabric of my cubicle wall. I could hear the woman in the next cube typing. I could hear the printer whirring. I stood up. I walked out of my cubicle, down the hallway, past the break room where people were laughing about a television show, and out the back door into the parking lot. The cold air hit me like a slap. It was 20 degrees outside. I didn't have my coat. I didn't care. I walked to my car, unlocked it, and sat in the driver's seat. I closed the door. I did not scream. I did not pound the steering wheel. I just folded. I leaned forward until my forehead rested against the freezing cold plastic of the steering wheel. A sound tore out of me, a low, guttural animal noise that hurt my throat. They weren't misunderstanding. They weren't confused about the medical urgency. They knew. They understood perfectly. They simply chose Evan. They chose the potential of Evan over the reality of Lila. They chose a 38-year-old man's ego over an 8-year-old girl's kidney. Because Evan was the squeaky wheel. Evan was the prodigal son. And I was Claire. Steady, boring, reliable Claire. Claire who would figure it out. Claire who could take the hit, because she always took the hit. My father's words echoed in the small space of the car. Since you were the one who decided to be a single mother, I sobbed then, hot tears spilling onto my cheeks, dripping onto my work slacks. I cried for the unfairness of it. I cried for the $1,800 I didn't have. I cried for the look on Lila's face when I would have to tell her the fix was gone. No, I whispered to the empty car. No. I wiped my face with the back of my hand. The skin felt raw. I sat up. I looked at my eyes in the rearview mirror. They were red and puffy. I couldn't go back into the office looking like this. I reached into the glove compartment and found a packet of wet wipes and a spare tube of concealer. I cleaned my face. I dabbed the makeup on. I breathed in for 4 counts. Held for 4. Out for 4. Kids bounce back. Mom had said. Maybe they did. But mothers didn't. Mothers hardened. I checked the time. I had been gone 10 minutes. I opened my phone and pulled up the contact for Briar Glen Children's Pavilion. I didn't dial Sarah, the scheduler. I dialed the main billing line. Patient accounts. This is David. Hi, David, I said. My voice was raspy, but steady. My name is Claire Watson. I am calling regarding an upcoming procedure for my daughter, Lila Watson, account number 45590. One moment, David said. I waited. I watched a crow land on the hood of a car 2 rows over. It pecked at a piece of frozen gum wrapper. Okay, Ms. Watson, I see the account. Procedure scheduled for February 14th. Estimated patient responsibility is $3,400. Due date is this Friday. Yes, I said. I am calling to inquire about hardship options. I have had a sudden change in funding. I see, David said. His tone shifted from transactional to sympathetic. Well, we do have payment plans, but for elective surgery, and I see this is coded as elective, medically necessary but scheduled, the policy requires 50% down before admission. The remaining balance can be spread over 12 months. 50%. That was $1,700. I did the math in my head. I had $1,400 in savings. That left me with $300 in the bank. $300 to feed us and pay for gas until my next paycheck in 2 weeks. It was impossible. 1 flat tire, and we were underwater. I have $1,400 available immediately, I said. Is there any flexibility on the 50% rule? Not at my level, David said. But you could try the family support desk. They manage the internal grant program. Sometimes they can bridge the gap. Do you have the number? I can transfer you. The line clicked and hummed with hold music. It was a generic piano melody. I listened to it for 12 minutes. Family support. This is Janine. Hi, Janine, I said. I repeated my story. I stripped away the emotion. I gave her the numbers, income, expenses, the gap. Okay, Janine said. She sounded tired. We do have a compassionate care grant. It covers up to $2,000 of out-of-pocket costs for families below a certain income threshold. What is your annual gross? I told her. You are right on the bubble, she said. You qualify to apply, but Claire, I have to be honest with you. The wait list for the grant review is 6 weeks. The committee meets once a month. The next meeting is February 20th. 6 days after the surgery. Is there anything faster? I asked. Emergency funding? Not through the hospital directly, Janine said. We do partner with some external charities. There is the Briar Glen Community Chest, but they are tapped out until March. And there is a new partner we just started working with, the Hollow Fern Family Fund. The name hit me like a physical blow. Hollow Fern, my parents' town. Hollow Fern? I asked. Is that a local charity? It is based in Hollow Fern, Michigan, Janine said. They focus on pediatric health and family stability. They have been very generous lately. They usually pay invoices directly to the provider. I can send you the application link. Yes, I said, my mind racing. Please send it. I will email it now. But Claire, even with them, approval takes 5 to 7 business days. Thank you, Janine. I hung up. Hollow Fern Family Fund. I knew my hometown. It was small. 5,000 people. Everyone knew everyone. I had never heard of a family fund. There was the Rotary Club. There was the Church Benevolence Fund. But a dedicated charity with a formal name? I didn't have time to dwell on it. I had to get back to work. I had to make money. I walked back into the clinic. My head held high. I went straight to the supervisor's office. Her name was Elena, and she was a terrifyingly efficient woman who wore blazers with shoulder pads and drank green tea exclusively. Claire, she said, looking up from her dual monitors. You were gone a while. I had a family issue, I said. It is resolved, but I need to ask a favor. I need hours, overtime, as much as you can give me. Elena took off her reading glasses. Corporate has a freeze on standard overtime. You know that. I know, I said. But I also know the accounts receivable aging report is a disaster. The unapplied credits from last year? The messy Medicaid denials from the merger? Elena winced. Don't remind me. I will clean them up, I said. I will stay late every night this week and come in on Saturday. I will scrub that entire list, but I need the hours approved at time and a half. Elena looked at me. She saw something in my face. Maybe she saw the redness around my eyes, or maybe she saw the steel behind it. It is grunt work, Claire, she said. It is staring at spreadsheets until your eyes bleed. I like spreadsheets, I said. They make sense. They have rules. She nodded slowly. Okay, I can justify it as a special project. Project cleanup, 10 hours max this week, another 10 next week. That is the best I can do. I will take it, I said. You look exhausted already, she observed. I can be tired, I said. I can't be powerless. I worked until 7 o'clock that night. My eyes burned. My back ached. But every claim I fixed, every dollar I reconciled, felt like a tiny brick I was placing in a wall around Lila. When I got home, the apartment smelled of sesame oil and fried garlic. My heart skipped a beat. Had I left the stove on? No. I walked into the kitchen and stopped. Evan was sitting at my small round dining table. He had spread out white takeout cartons, pad thai, spring rolls, crab rangoons. Lila was sitting opposite him, laughing, holding a pair of chopsticks awkwardly. "Mom," she yelled, "Uncle Evan brought noodles." I stood in the doorway, my purse heavy on my shoulder. "How did you get in?" Evan looked up. Grinning, he had a piece of shrimp hanging from his fork. "Lila has a key hidden under the rock, remember? I taught her that trick." "That key is for emergencies." "Evan," I said. I dropped my purse on the counter with a thud. "Hunger is an emergency," he said, winking at Lila. "Relax, sis. I come bearing gifts. Number 42 from the Golden Lotus. No peanuts, because I know you get paranoid about allergies even though nobody is allergic." He was acting as if nothing had happened, as if he hadn't spent the last 24 hours dismantling my life. "Lila," I said, "take your noodles into the living room and watch a show for a bit. Mommy needs to talk to Uncle Evan." "Aw," Lila groaned. "He was telling me about the boat." My stomach clenched. "Go, now, please." She sensed the tone. She grabbed her carton and scurried out. I waited until the television volume went up, then I turned to Evan. "What are you doing here?" "Eating dinner," he said. "Checking on my favorite girls. Mom said you were freaking out today. Said you were spiraling." "I am not spiraling," I said. "I am scrambling. Because you took the money." Evan put his fork down. He looked hurt. Genuinely, theatrically hurt. "I didn't take anything. Claire, Dad made a decision. A business decision. It is not like I reached into your purse." "It is the same thing," I said. "You knew I needed that money for the surgery. You knew the deadline was Friday." "And you will get it," he said, waving a hand dismissively. "Just later, April, May, whenever the cash flow starts hitting, Dad explained it to you. It is strategy. We are pooling resources to maximize the family yield." "Stop," I said. I held up a hand. "Stop using words you learned from a seminar. Family yield is not a thing. Lila is in pain. Evan." He sighed and stood up. He walked over to the fridge and opened it, peering inside. "You got any beer?" "No." "You are so uptight," he muttered. He grabbed a can of sparkling water and cracked it open. "Look, Claire, I am trying to do something good here. I am trying to change. For real this time. The marina? It is a gold mine. This boat is the key to the whole operation. If I don't buy it, I am just another guy on the dock. If I own the asset, I am a player. So borrow money from a bank," I said. "Like a normal adult," he laughed, a bitter, sharp sound. "Yeah, right. With my credit score? Banks don't look at vision, Claire. They look at history. Dad is the only one who sees the potential. He believes in me. Why can't you?" "Because your potential is costing me my daughter's surgery," I said. "You can borrow it from them later," he said, leaning against the counter. "Once the business is running, it is all family money anyway. It all goes into the same pot. Dad pays for your stuff. He pays for my stuff. What is the difference? Who gets the check first?" "The difference," I said, my voice shaking with the effort to keep it low, "is that I am not asking for a boat. I am asking for a ureteral reimplantation." He rolled his eyes. "Always with the medical drama. Look, I didn't come here to fight. I came to tell you that when this thing takes off, I am going to buy Lila the biggest damn dollhouse in Michigan. I promise." "I don't want a dollhouse," I said. "I want you to leave." "Fine," he said. He pushed off the counter. "Be that way. But you will see, Monday morning, when I sign the papers, everything changes." "Monday?" I asked. "Dad said he needed to transfer the money this week." "Yeah," Evan said, distracted now, looking for his keys. "Money has to clear by Friday so I can get the cashier's check. I need the title in hand before the 15th. The inspection crew is coming to certify the slip capability on the 16th. If I don't own a commercial vessel by then, the Marina Board won't renew the lease for the dredging zone." He froze. He realized he had said too much. "What inspection?" I asked. "Just routine stuff," he stammered. "Coast Guard safety checks. Standard." "You said the Marina Board," I said. "You said lease renewal. It is complicated. Claire," he snapped. "You wouldn't understand the logistics. Just tell Lila I said bye." He grabbed his jacket and bolted. The door slammed behind him. I stood in the kitchen, the smell of pad thai turning my stomach. Inspection crew. Certify the slip capability. Lease renewal. Why would a marina care if he owned a boat by a specific date? Marinas rented slips. They didn't usually demand you own a specific type of boat to rent a spot. Unless the dredging zone lease wasn't for him. Unless the lease belonged to the marina. And they needed to show they had an operator? It didn't make sense. None of it made sense. I cleaned up the takeout. I put Lila to bed. I read her a story about a brave badger. I kissed her forehead and told her I loved her. "Did you get a marble today?" she asked sleepily. "I got a big one," I lied. "A giant red one." "Good," she whispered. I went to the living room and opened my laptop. It was 11 o'clock. My eyes felt like they were full of sand. I typed Silver Pike Marina into the search bar. The website was slick. Nice photos of sailboats and sunsets. Briar Glen's premier nautical experience. I scrolled down to the bottom of the page. Copyright 2025, Silver Pike Marina, all rights reserved. I went to the About Us page. No mention of dredging contracts. No mention of industrial work. It was a recreational marina. I opened a new tab. I went to the Michigan Department of Licensing and Regulatory Affairs website. I searched for the business entity. Silver Pike Marina. Status: active. Registered agent: Michael Vance. Manager: Pikewater Holdings, LLC. I clicked on Pikewater Holdings, LLC. It had been formed 6 months ago. The address listed for the registered agent wasn't a law office. It was a P.O. box in a strip mall in Hollow Fern. Hollow Fern. My heart hammered against my ribs. Why would a marina in Briar Glen be managed by a holding company with a P.O. box in my parents' tiny town, 40 miles away? I thought about the Hollow Fern Family Fund. I thought about Evan's panic about the inspection. I thought about my father's obsession with liquidity. I opened a new spreadsheet. I typed, "The anomalies. Dad reallocates surgery money for a workboat. Evan." Evan claims boat is needed for a contract and inspection by February 16th. Marina is managed by Pikewater Holdings, LLC. Hollow Fern address. Hospital suggests Hollow Fern Family Fund for aid. I stared at the screen. I didn't have the picture yet. I just had corner pieces. But they were dark, jagged pieces that didn't fit the story of a family investment. I wasn't just a billing specialist. I was a researcher. I traced money for a living. I found where it hid. I closed the laptop. I had a plan. I would take the overtime. I would scrape every penny. I would apply to the Hollow Fern Family Fund and see what happened. I would pay the 50% down payment for Lila myself, even if it meant eating ramen for a month. But I would also watch. I would track every text. I would record every conversation. I would save every invoice. My parents wanted me to be the good daughter, the one who accepted the scraps and said thank you. They didn't realize that by threatening Lila, they hadn't broken me. They had sharpened me. I walked to the window and looked out at the empty street. "I am not emotional," I whispered to the glass. "I am recording." The family support desk at Briar Glen Children's Pavilion was tucked away in a quiet corridor behind the noisy bustling of the main atrium. It felt less like a medical office and more like a guidance counselor's room from high school. The walls were painted a soft, calming sage green, and the chairs were upholstered in a durable but comfortable fabric that didn't squeak when you shifted your weight. I arrived 10 minutes early for my appointment with Janine Porter. I had my life organized in a heavy plastic accordion folder. In the first slot, I had my last 4 pay stubs. In the second, my tax returns from the previous 2 years. In the third, a printed breakdown of my monthly budget, color-coded by necessity. In the fourth, the denial letter from the initial grant inquiry and the approval letter for the surgery itself. I was not going to be the weeping mother begging for a handout. I was going to be the project manager of my daughter's health. Janine called me back exactly on time. She was a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and a messy bun held together by a pencil. Her desk was piled high with files, but the space in front of her was clear. "Claire," she said, gesturing to the chair. "I am glad you could make it in so quickly. I reviewed the notes from billing." "Thank you for seeing me," I said. I set the folder down with a solid thud. "I want to be transparent. The family assistance I was counting on has been delayed indefinitely. I have $1,400 available in liquid savings right now. The required deposit is $3,400. I earn too much for Medicaid, but my rent takes 40% of my take-home pay. I am in the donut hole. Janine nodded, typing something into her computer. The donut hole is a crowded place. Honey, most of the families I see are sitting right there with you, too rich for help, too poor to pay. She spun her monitor slightly so I could see. Okay, she said. Here's the reality. The grant committee won't meet until the 20th. That is too late for your date on the 14th. However, because you have steady income and a perfect payment history on your previous copays, I can override the 50% rule if we can get the upfront cash to a specific threshold. I leaned forward. What is the number? If you can pay $2,500 by Friday, Janine said, I can approve a 24-month payment plan for the remainder, interest-free for the first year. That locks the surgery date. No delays. $2,500. I did the mental math instantly. I had $1,400. I needed $1,100 more. It was better than $3,400, but it was still a mountain. And if I can't hit that number? I asked. Janine's face softened. Then we have to reschedule. We would push it to April, wait for the grant cycle, and hope the committee approves the full amount. But Claire, I see the doctor's notes. He is concerned about scarring. He is, I said. I am not rescheduling. Then we need $1,100, Janine said. Do you have a credit card with space? My limit is $500, I said. I keep it low on purpose so I never get into trouble. Smart, she said, but tough for today. I looked at my hands resting on my knees. I looked at the ring on my left hand. It wasn't an engagement ring anymore. I wore it on my middle finger sometimes, or just kept it in the box. It was a platinum band with a modest but high-quality diamond, given to me by Lila's father 6 years ago, before he decided that fatherhood was a concept he preferred to experience from a distance of 2,000 miles. I hadn't sold it because it felt like admitting failure. It felt like admitting that the promise of a whole family was truly dead. I had kept it for Lila, thinking maybe she would want it someday, but Lila didn't need a diamond. She needed working ureters. I can get the money, I said. I stood up. I will be back on Friday with the payment. Janine smiled. I will put a flag on the account. We will hold the spot until noon on Friday. Don't let me down. Claire? I won't, I said. The pawn shop was not like the ones in the movies. It was clean, well lit, and smelled of lemon polish. It was called Briar Glen Estate Buyers, a name that tried to lend dignity to the act of desperation. The man behind the counter wore a vest and examined the ring with a loupe for a long time. The silence stretched out, filled only by the ticking of 100 vintage watches in the display case. It is a nice stone, he said finally. VS1 clarity, good color. The setting is a bit dated. It is platinum, I said. I know, he said. I am looking at the weight. He set the ring down on a small velvet pad. I can offer you 1,200. The number hung in the air. 1,200, plus my 1,400. That was 2,600. It cleared the hurdle by $100. It was exactly enough. A wave of grief hit me, sharp and sudden. This ring was supposed to be a heritage. It was supposed to be the story I told Lila about how her parents loved each other once. If I sold it, that physical proof was gone. I was erasing the last artifact of the life I thought I was going to have. Then I thought about my father's voice on the phone. You always make everything emotional. I thought about Evan's boat. I thought about Lila's bravery jar. Do it, I said. Cash? The man nodded and started typing up the receipt. I signed my name. I took the stack of bills. They felt heavy in my hand, heavier than the ring. I walked out to my car and sat there for a moment, gripping the steering wheel. I looked at my bare hand. I didn't feel shame. I felt lighter. I had traded a symbol of a broken promise for a concrete guarantee of my daughter's future. It was the best trade I had ever made. That evening, I focused entirely on Lila. The atmosphere in the apartment had to be a fortress against the stress radiating from my phone, which I had left on silent in the kitchen. We sat on her bedroom floor, surrounded by her stuffed animals. Okay, I said, holding a clipboard. We need to make the official hospital bag list. This is serious business. Lila, we cannot forget the essentials. Lila narrowed her eyes, playing along. Socks, she said. The fuzzy ones with the grippers? Check, I said, writing it down with a flourish. Fuzzy gripper socks, essential for hallway speed walking. Tablet, she said. And headphones? Check and check. What about a surgeon assistant? She looked at the pile of plush toys. What does the assistant do? The assistant's job is to sit in the waiting room with me and make sure I don't eat all the vending machine snacks, I said. And then, when you wake up, the assistant is the first one you get to hug. She considered this carefully. She picked up a scruffy, one-eared rabbit named Barnaby. Barnaby, she decided. He is a good listener. Barnaby it is, I said. Now, let's practice the breathing game, remember? We are blowing out a giant candle, but we have to do it really slowly so the wax doesn't splatter. We sat cross-legged. I inhaled deeply through my nose. Exaggerating the sound, Lila mimicked me. Hold it, I whispered. 1, 2, 3. Now blow the candle. We exhaled in a long, thin stream of air. Mom? Lila asked, her voice small after the breath was gone. Yeah. Baby? Is Grandma and Grandpa coming to the hospital? My chest tightened. I don't know, I said honestly. They live far away, and they are very busy with some work things right now. But that doesn't mean they don't love you. It just means the logistics are tricky. Is it because of the boat? She asked. I froze. What do you know about the boat? Uncle Evan told me, she said, picking at a loose thread on Barnaby's ear. He said he is getting a big boat to make everyone rich. He said Grandma and Grandpa are helping him so he can buy me a dollhouse. I felt a flash of pure, white-hot anger. They were buying her silence with imaginary toys. They were framing their neglect as a favor. Well, I said, keeping my voice level. Uncle Evan has a lot of big ideas, but right now, the most important thing is you and me and Dr. Evans. We are the team, okay? Okay, she said, but I don't want a dollhouse. I want you to stop looking sad. I reached out and pulled her into a hug, burying my face in her hair so she wouldn't see the tears that instantly sprang to my eyes. She saw too much. She always saw too much. I am not sad, I whispered into her hair. I am focused. That is my focused face. The next morning, an email arrived from Marlene. The subject line was solution. I opened it at my desk at work, bracing myself. Attached was a PDF document. The logo at the top read Watson Firth Advisory. I recognized the name. It was the accounting firm in Hollow Fern that handled my father's taxes. The text of the email read, Claire, your father and I have been praying on this. We hate to see you stressed. We have found a way to bridge the gap for you without disrupting Evan's acquisition. We are willing to advance you the $2,000 as a short-term family loan. However, to keep everything proper and fair to your brother, we need to formalize it. Please sign the attached agreement and we can wire the funds today. Love, Mom. I opened the PDF. It was a loan agreement, but it wasn't just a promissory note. It was a lifestyle contract. Clause 4. The borrower agrees to provide full access to all personal bank statements to the lender on a monthly basis until the principal is repaid. Clause 7. The borrower agrees that any discretionary spending exceeding $100 must be pre-approved by the lender. Clause 9. The borrower agrees to facilitate bi-weekly visitation with the grandchild at the lender's residence in Hollow Fern. Transportation to be provided by the borrower. I stared at the screen. They wanted to buy my autonomy for $2,000. They wanted to audit my grocery bills. They wanted to force me to drive Lila to them, 4 hours round trip, twice a month, regardless of her recovery, regardless of my work schedule. They weren't helping me. They were putting a leash on me. My phone rang. It was Richard. Did you get the email? He asked. No greeting. I got it, I said. I am reading it. It is a standard agreement, he said. Bob Firth drew it up. It protects everyone. Evan is signing something similar for the boat financing. I doubt Evan is signing a clause that lets you approve his spending, I said. Evan is running a business, Richard snapped. You are running a household that is constantly in the red. We need to ensure our capital isn't being wasted on frivolities. Frivolities? I repeated. Like rent? Like electricity? Dad, Clause 9 requires me to bring Lila to Hollow Fern every other weekend. She is having surgery. She won't be able to sit in a car for 2 hours each way for weeks. She can lay down in the back, he said dismissively. We have a right to see her, if we are paying for her care. We have a right to access, as if she were a timeshare. I am not signing this, I said. Excuse me? I am not signing it, I said, my voice gaining strength. I appreciate the offer, but the conditions are not possible. I cannot give you control over my bank accounts, and I cannot commit to that travel schedule while she is healing. Then you don't get the money, Richard said. His voice dropped to a low growl. And don't expect us to offer again. If you turn this down, you are on your own, permanently. I understand, I said. You are being incredibly ungrateful, he spat. After everything we have done, we raised you. We supported you when that deadbeat boyfriend left. And this is how you repay us? By withholding our granddaughter? This isn't about gratitude, I said. I felt my hand trembling, but I held the phone tight. And it isn't about withholding her. It is about my child's healthcare schedule. It is about her recovery. I will not barter her comfort for a check. Fine, Richard said. Good luck explaining to her why she didn't get the surgery. She is getting the surgery, I said. I handled it. There was a silence on the line. A stunned, heavy silence. How? He demanded. That is none of your business, I said. Goodbye, Dad. I hung up. My heart was hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. I felt sick. I felt terrified. But beneath the fear, there was a new sensation, a cold, hard rod of steel running up my spine. I had said no, and the world hadn't ended. At 2:00, a notification popped up on my personal email. Sender, anonymous. Sender.774 2 Proton Mail. Com. Subject, no subject. I almost deleted it as spam. But something made me pause. I opened it. The body of the email contained a single sentence. Ask why the Hollow Fern Family Fund pays Silver Pike invoices. I stared at the words. Hollow Fern Family Fund. That was the charity the hospital told me about. Silver Pike. That was the marina. There was no signature, no attachment. Just the question. I looked around the office. Everyone was working. No one was watching me. Who knew? Who knew I was looking into this? I hadn't told anyone except, well, I hadn't really told anyone. I had searched on my laptop. I had asked Janine at the hospital about the fund. My skin prickled. I minimized my work windows and opened a browser. I needed to see the tax records. Nonprofits were public entities. Their Form 99s were public record. I went to the IRS tax-exempt organization search tool. I typed in Hollow Fern Family Fund. There it was. Hollow Fern Family Fund Incorporated. Status: active. Location: Hollow Fern. MI: Principal Officer: Marlene Watson. I gasped, a small, sharp intake of breath that made my cubicle neighbor. Dave, look up. You okay? He asked. Fine, I said. Just a hiccup? Marlene Watson, my mother. My mother was the principal officer of the charity. I clicked on the most recent Form 990 filing from the previous year. I scrolled through the legalese. Mission: to provide emergency financial assistance to families in crisis in the greater Hollow Fern area. Revenue: $250,000. Expenses: $230,000. I scrolled down to the section listing the highest compensated independent contractors and vendors. There were usually things like accounting services or legal fees. Here, The largest payment was to a vendor called Lakefront Logistics Management. Amount: $85,000. Service description: program facility. Rental and maintenance. I opened a new tab. I searched for Lakefront Logistics Management. No website. But I found a business filing. Lakefront Logistics Management. Registered agent address: 1422 Marina Drive, Briar Glen. That was the address of Silver Pike Marina. My mother's charity was paying $85,000 a year to a company at the marina for facility rental. What facility? The charity was a P.O. box in Hollow Fern. They didn't run a camp. They didn't have a headquarters. I looked at the other vendors. Pikewater Holdings, LLC. Amount: $40,000. Service description: consulting. Pikewater Holdings, the company that managed the marina. The charity wasn't just supporting the marina, it was funneling money into it, over $100,000 a year. And now, my father wanted to delay my daughter's surgery so he could buy a boat which would likely be rented or managed by these same entities? The anonymous email was right. The charity was paying the marina's invoices. My phone buzzed on the desk, making me jump. Caller ID: Evan. I stared at the screen. The timing was impossible. I picked it up. Hello? Hey, Evan said. His voice was high, tight. Hey, Claire, just checking in. I am at work, Evan. Right. Look, Dad mentioned you were asking questions. About the boat. About the financing. I asked for a date, I said. That is all. Yeah, well, he is stressed, Evan said. He sounded breathless, like he was walking fast. His blood pressure is up. You know he can't take stress. I just wanted to make sure you weren't, looking at stuff that doesn't matter. Digging up old paperwork or whatever. Why would I be digging up paperwork? I asked. I don't know. He laughed. A frantic, jagged sound. You are a billing nerd. It is what you do. Just don't, okay? It is all handled. The boat is happening. The surgery will happen. Just let the professionals handle the money, okay? Evan, I said, who is the Hollow Fern Family Fund? There was a silence, a dead, absolute silence. I have to go, he said. The line went dead. He didn't ask, what is that? He didn't ask, why do you ask? He hung up. He knew. I sat there, my hands shaking as I lowered the phone. This wasn't just about a boat. This wasn't just about favoritism. This was fraud. My parents were running money through a nonprofit, paying it out to a marina business, and now they were using family funds to buy a boat to what? Launder more? Justify the payments? And they were willing to let Lila suffer to keep the scheme floating. I couldn't go home. I felt unsafe in my own head. I called Tessa. Tessa Klein had been my best friend since 7th grade. She was a school counselor, the kind of person who could talk a teenager off a ledge while simultaneously organizing a bake sale. She was practical, fierce, and entirely unimpressed by my family's drama. We met at a coffee shop halfway between my work and her school. I sat in the back corner, my laptop open. I showed her everything: the budget, the email from Mom, the loan agreement, the Form 990, the anonymous email. Tessa drank her black coffee slowly, reading every line. She didn't gasp. She didn't interrupt. She just read. Finally, she closed the laptop. Okay, she said. Okay, I whispered. Tessa, my mother is laundering money. My father is an accomplice. My brother is the bagman. Allegedly, Tessa said. She reached across the table and took my hand. Her grip was strong. Claire, listen to me. This is huge. This is radioactive. But right now, you are not a forensic accountant. You are a mother. I know, I said. But they are dangerous, she said. Not in a hitman way, but in a destroy your life to save their reputation way. If you blow this up right now, what happens? I don't know. I do, she said. The surgery gets canceled because you are in a legal battle. Your parents cut you off completely. Maybe they sue you for defamation. Maybe the IRS freezes everything, including any assets they might have used to help you later. They aren't helping me later, I said. I know that now. Exactly, Tessa said. So your priority is February 14th. Your priority is Lila. You need to put blinders on. But I can't just ignore it, I said. Someone sent me that email. Someone wants me to know. Then keep the email, she said. Print it out. Save the PDF of the tax return. Save the voicemail from Evan if you have it. Keep a log. Write down dates, times, everything. Build a file. But do not confront them. Not yet. I feel like I'm going crazy, I said. They made me feel like I was the selfish one, for wanting my daughter fixed. That is what manipulators do, Tessa said. They project. They are the ones stealing from a charity. So they accuse you of being greedy. It is textbook. She squeezed my hand again. Pay for the surgery, she said. Use the ring money. Lock the date. Get Lila healthy. Once she is safe, once she is recovered, then you decide what truth is worth pursuing. Then you decide if you want to burn it down. I don't want to burn it down, I said. I just want to be free of them. The truth is the exit door, Tessa said. But you have to walk through it carefully. Friday morning. I walked into the Briar Glen Children's Pavilion. I didn't go to the scheduling desk. I went straight to the cashier's window. I pulled out my wallet. I took out the stack of cash from the pawn shop. $1,200. I took out a cashier's check I had drawn from my savings account. $1,300. Total, $2,500. I slid the money and the check under the glass partition. Payment for Lila Watson, I said. Account 45590. The cashier, a young man with glasses, counted the bills. He ran the check. Okay, he said. This satisfies the prepayment requirement for the payment plan. You are all set for the 14th. He printed a receipt. I took it. I held it in my hand. It was a flimsy piece of thermal paper, but it felt like a shield. I walked out of the hospital into the winter sunlight. The air was crisp and cold. I had done it. I had sold my ring. I had emptied my savings. I had defied my parents. I had ignored the threats. Lila was going to be okay. I took a deep breath, letting the cold air fill my lungs. I felt a surge of pride, fierce and burning. I didn't need them. I had never needed them. But as I walked to my car, I checked my phone. There was a text from Evan. Just bought the boat. Big things coming. Tell Lila Uncle Evan loves her. I looked at the words. Bought the boat. With whose money? The charities? The money that should have gone to families in crisis? I looked at the receipt in my hand. I had paid for my crisis myself. I unlocked my car and got in. I placed the receipt carefully in the glove box, right next to the printout of the Hollow Fern Family Fund's tax return. I wasn't just a mother anymore. I was a witness. And as I drove away, I knew that the surgery was just the beginning. The anesthesia would wear off. Lila would heal. But the rot in my family was deep, and I was the only one holding the scalpel. The week leading up to February 14th felt less like a countdown and more like a slow, deliberate holding of breath. I moved through the days with a mechanical precision that frightened me a little. I packed Lila's bag 3 times. I labeled every item with a black permanent marker: socks, tablet, charger, Barnaby. I wrote the absence note for her school with the calm authority of a woman who had nothing to hide. Even though I felt like I was smuggling my daughter out of a war zone, Lila Watson will be absent starting February 14th for a medical procedure. She will return pending physician clearance. I did not tell the school that her grandmother had tried to delay this procedure to buy a tugboat. I did not tell them that I had sold my engagement ring to pay the deposit. I kept the world small. I kept it manageable. Lila was anxious. But in the way children are anxious, she worried about the needles, and she worried about missing the Valentine's Day party. I am going to miss the cupcakes, she said on Tuesday, sitting at the kitchen table. We will have cupcakes when you come home, I promised. And yours will be better because we will put extra sprinkles on them. Can they be blue? They can be any color you want. I did not let the anger leak out. when I looked at my phone and saw text messages from my mother, pictures of a snowy bird feeder, a link to a recipe for chicken pot pie. I did not throw the phone across the room. I replied with a thumbs-up emoji. I played the game. I was the wall that the waves crashed against, and behind the wall, the water was still. February 14th dawned gray and cold. The sky was the color of wet slate. We arrived at Briar Glen Children's Pavilion at 6 a.m. The air in the lobby smelled of floor wax and antiseptic, a smell that instantly triggered a fight-or-flight response in my gut. But I held Lila's hand, and I smiled. "Look at the fish tank," I said, pointing to the massive aquarium built into the admission desk. "I bet that blue one is the boss." We were checking in, the plastic wristband being snapped onto Lila's small wrist, when the automatic doors whooshed open behind us. "There are my girls!" I stiffened. I didn't need to turn around to know who it was. The voice was performative, pitched perfectly to turn heads. Marlene Watson swept into the lobby. She was wearing a camel-colored wool coat that I knew cost more than my car insurance for the year, and she had a silk scarf tied artfully around her neck. She looked like the benevolent matriarch of a dynasty, not a woman who had suggested her granddaughter could wait 3 months for functional kidneys. "Mom," I said, "what are you doing here?" "Supporting my family," she said, looking wounded that I had even asked. She bent down and enveloped Lila in a cloud of expensive perfume. "Oh, my brave little soldier. Grandma is here. Grandma is going to pray over you." Lila hugged her back, because Lila was 8 and she loved her grandmother. "Hi, Grandma. Did you bring Grandpa?" "Grandpa is working," Marlene said, straightening up and smoothing her coat. "He has a very important meeting with the Marina people. But he sends his love." She looked at me then, her eyes hard and bright. "I assumed you would need the help, Claire, since you decided to go it alone." "We are fine," I said. "We are just checking in." "Well, I am here now," she said. We moved to the pre-op holding area. It was a large room divided by curtains. The nurses were kind, efficient women in colorful scrubs. They had Lila change into a gown with cartoon penguins on it. They put a warming blanket over her. I sat in the chair next to the gurney, holding Barnaby. Marlene stood near the foot of the bed, hovering. Then I saw the phone. Marlene had her smartphone out. She was angling it, framing a shot. She moved slightly to the left, capturing the IV stand, the hospital bracelet, and Lila's pale, brave face. "Just a quick update for the prayer chain," Marlene murmured. Tapping the screen, then she turned the camera on herself. She posed with her hand on the bed rail, tilting her head in a gesture of saintly concern. The flash went off. "Mom," I said. My voice was low, but it cut through the room like a scalpel. She looked up, blinking. "What?" "No photos," I said. "I am just documenting the day," she said. "The family wants to know." "No," I said. I stood up. I walked over to her and put my hand over her phone lens. "You do not get to use my daughter's surgery for social media clout. You do not get to play the doting grandmother on Facebook when you wouldn't help pay for the procedure." Marlene gasped. She pulled her phone back, clutching it to her chest as if I had tried to steal it. "That is an awful thing to say. I am documenting her journey." "She is not a journey," I said. "She is a child having surgery. Put the phone away, or I will ask the nurse to escort you out. HIPAA rules are very strict about privacy." Marlene's mouth opened and closed. She looked around to see if anyone was watching. A nurse was checking a chart nearby, listening. "You are so bitter," Marlene hissed, her voice dropping to a whisper. "You are letting money poison your heart." "My heart is fine," I said. "My wallet is lighter, but my conscience is clear. Put the phone away." She shoved the phone into her purse with a sharp, aggressive motion. "Fine. If you want to deny people the chance to pray for her, that is on you. I am pretty sure God doesn't need a Facebook post to know where she is," I said. The surgeon, Dr. Evans, walked in a moment later. saving us from further escalation. He was a tall man with steady hands and a voice that sounded like calm water. He explained the procedure again. He high-fived Lila. He marked her side with a purple marker. Then, the orderlies came. "Time to roll, princess," the orderly said. I kissed Lila's forehead. I held it there for 5 seconds, breathing in the smell of her shampoo. "I love you," I whispered. "I will be right here when you wake up. Barnaby is staying with me to keep watch." "Okay," she said. Her voice was trembling. "Love you, Mom." They wheeled her away. The double doors swung shut, and I was left standing in the empty cubicle with my mother, the silence between us heavy and toxic. "I am going to get coffee," Marlene said, buttoning her coat. "I can't stay in this room with your negative energy." "Good," I said. The surgery took 3 hours. I sat in the surgical waiting room. I did not look at my phone. I watched the digital board on the wall. Patient 45,590. Status, in procedure. I watched the color change from blue to green. Status, in recovery. The relief that washed over me was physical. It started in my knees and moved up to my throat, a shaking, shuddering release of tension that I hadn't realized I was carrying. "Doctor." Evans came out 15 minutes later. He pulled down his mask. "She did great," he said. "Textbook. We cleared the obstruction, reimplanted the ureter, and the tissue looks healthy. No surprises." "Thank you," I said. Tears pricked my eyes. "Thank you." "She is going to be sore," he said, "but she is going to be fine." I spent the night in the recliner chair next to Lila's bed on the pediatric floor. The room was dark, lit only by the glow of the monitors. The rhythmic beeping of the pulse oximeter was the most beautiful music I had ever heard. Marlene had left at 4 o'clock, claiming she had a headache and needed to beat traffic. She hadn't come back. I held Lila's hand through the bed rails. Her fingers were warm. She was sleeping deeply, aided by the pain medication. I didn't sleep. I just watched her chest rise and fall. I thought about the boat. I thought about the charity. I thought about the text from Evan. "Just bought the boat." I looked at my daughter's face. Peaceful and repaired. I had saved her. I had done it without them. But as the adrenaline faded, a cold, hard clarity settled in. They hadn't just failed to help. They had actively tried to stop me. They had prioritized a financial scheme over her safety. That wasn't negligence. That was betrayal. My phone buzzed on the bedside table at 7 the next morning. I grabbed it quickly to silence the vibration. Lila was still asleep. It was Richard. I walked into the hallway, closing the door softly behind me. I stood near the nurse's station, rubbing the grit from my eyes. "Hello?" I said. "Claire?" Richard said. He didn't ask how the surgery went. He didn't ask if Lila was in pain. He didn't ask if I had slept. "We need to talk," he said. "Evan tells me you have been asking questions about the marina lease." I leaned against the wall. "Lila is fine. Thanks for asking. The surgery was a success." He paused, a beat of irritation. "I assumed she was fine, or you would be calling for money. Listen to me. Claire, you need to stop digging." "Digging?" I asked. "I'm just reading public records. Dad, why does that bother you?" "Because you don't understand business," he said. His voice was tight, strained. "You see a line item, and you think you have found a smoking gun. You are going to cause trouble where there isn't any. If you start making noise, if you start asking the wrong people about the family fund or the marina, you could ruin this family." "Ruin the family," I repeated. "Like you almost ruined Lila's kidneys?" "Don't give me that melodrama," he snapped. "We are trying to secure a future here, a legacy. Evan is finally on the right track. This boat deal is the linchpin. If you spook the marina board, or if you bring scrutiny onto the charity right now, the whole thing collapses." "And for what? Spite?" "It is not spite," I said. "It is curiosity. Why is Mom's charity paying the marina $85,000 for facility rental?" There was a silence on the line, sharp and sudden. "You are way out of your depth," Richard said. His voice was low now. Dangerous. Stop. Now. Focus on your daughter and leave the finances to the men. If I find out you have contacted anyone, the IRS, the state, anyone, you will be cut off. No inheritance, no safety net, nothing. You will be a stranger to us. I think I already am, I said. I hung up. My hands were shaking, but not from fear, from rage. Leave the finances to the men. He was terrified. I could hear it in the tremor of his voice. He wasn't protecting a legacy. He was protecting a lie. I went home briefly at noon to shower and change while Lila was watching a movie and eating a popsicle. I had asked a nurse to sit with her for an hour. The apartment felt cold and empty. I walked to the mailbox in the lobby on my way up. There was a single white envelope, Briar Glen Community Credit Union. I opened it in the elevator. Dear Ms. Watson, we are writing to notify you of a declined transfer attempt on your profile dated February 12th. The transfer of $5,000 from the account ending in 0442 was blocked due to an innovative security flag involving the recipient routing number associated with Watson Firth Advisory. Please contact us to verify if this transaction was authorized. I stared at the letter. Account ending in 0442. That wasn't my account. My account ended in 9981, but the letter was addressed to me. Ms. Claire Watson. Someone had an account in my name, or someone had tried to move money through my name to Watson Firth Advisory. Watson Firth, the accounting firm that drafted the loan agreement Mom sent me. I felt a chill go down my spine. It wasn't just a mistake. It was identity usage. I didn't go upstairs to shower. I turned around and walked back to my car. I had a meeting to make. I had called Maya Ellery from the hospital cafeteria after Richard's call. She was a consumer law attorney in Pinebrook, 20 minutes away. I had found her reviews online. Aggressive, detail-oriented, hates bullies. Her office was in a converted brownstone. It smelled of old paper and expensive coffee. Maya was a woman with sharp features and glasses that sat on the end of her nose. She listened to me for 20 minutes without interrupting. She looked at the loan agreement. She looked at the tax return printout. She looked at the letter from the credit union. Okay, she said, leaning back in her leather chair. You have a mess here, Claire, but it is a very specific kind of mess. Is it fraud? I asked. It smells like it, she said. The charity paying the marina suggests self-dealing. Using charitable funds for private business benefit is a big no-no for the IRS. But the letter from the credit union? That is the part that concerns me for you personally. She tapped the paper. If there is an account in your name that you didn't open, or if your social security number is attached to a transfer you didn't authorize, you are exposed. If this boat deal goes south, or if the audit happens, you could be looked at as an accomplice. I didn't sign anything, I said. I refused the loan. Good, she said. But refusal isn't enough if they are using your identity behind your back. You need to build a firewall. How? First, we lock down your credit, all 3 bureaus, today. Second, you send a certified letter to the credit union demanding full documentation of the account ending in 0442. We need to know who opened it and who signed for it. Third, you send a letter to Watson Firth Advisory stating you have no business relationship with them and inquiring why your name was on a transfer. My father will explode, I said. Let him explode, Maya said calmly. Explosions generate debris. Debris is evidence. She took off her glasses. Claire, listen to me. Do not make accusations. Do not call your father and scream that he is a crook. You keep it boring. You keep it bureaucratic. You are just clearing up a clerical error. You act confused, not angry. Let the papers speak. If they are innocent, they will clarify it easily. If they are guilty, they will panic. They are already panicking, I said. Good, she said. Then we are ahead of the curve. I sat in the hospital cafeteria with my laptop. Lila was napping upstairs. I wrote the emails. To Richard Watson, Marlene Watson. Subject, clarification on credit union letter. Dear Mom and Dad, I received a strange letter today from Briar Glen Community Credit Union regarding a declined transfer of $5,000 from an account ending in 0442. The letter mentions Watson Firth Advisory. I do not recognize this account number, and I did not authorize any transfer. I am concerned about identity theft. I am going to contact the bank and the firm to investigate this error. Do you have any information on this before I file a fraud report? Best. Claire, I hit send. It was polite. It was factual. And it was a grenade. I wrote a second email to Watson Firth, copying the general inquiry box. 2. Watson Firth Advisory. Subject: Unauthorized Transaction Inquiry. To whom it may concern. My name is Claire Watson. I have been notified of a transaction involving my name and your firm. Please provide all documentation regarding any accounts or transfers associated with my Social Security number immediately. I hit send. I felt a strange sense of calm. I wasn't the daughter begging for help anymore. I was the auditor. At 5 o'clock, I went out to the parking lot to move my car closer to the entrance. It was getting dark. As I walked toward my sedan, a figure stepped out from behind a pickup truck. I jumped, clutching my keys between my knuckles. Claire, it was Evan. He looked terrible. His expensive leather jacket was unzipped, revealing a wrinkled t-shirt. His hair was messy. His eyes were rimmed with red. Evan, I said, stepping back. You scared me. I need to talk to you, he said. His voice was jagged. Dad said you hung up on him. He said you are going to the authorities. I am sending emails, I said. I am clearing up a bank error. It is not an error, Evan said. He moved closer, and I smelled stale coffee and fear. Claire, please, you have to stop. You don't understand what is happening. Then tell me, I said. Tell me about the boat. He ran a hand through his hair. He looked around the parking lot, checking for, what, spies? Police? It is not a boat, he whispered. I mean, there is a boat. It exists. It is a rusted heap of junk, but we aren't buying it to dredge the lake. Then why? The marina, he said. The lease is up for renewal with the city. The marina has to show a certain level of capital investment and operational capacity to keep the contract. If they lose the city contract, Pikewater Holdings goes under. And Pikewater is connected to Mom's charity, I said. Evan winced. Dad and the guys, they moved money. Years ago, they moved money from the charity into the marina to prop it up. They thought it was a loan. They thought the marina would make money and they could pay it back before anyone noticed. But the marina lost money. The hole got bigger. My stomach turned over. So the $85,000 in rent? Fake, Evan said. Paper trails to cover the deficit. But now the audit is coming. The city is auditing the marina for the renewal. They need to show that the money was used for assets, for equipment. So they need a boat, I said, realizing the horror of it. They need an invoice, Evan said. They need to show they bought a $100,000 vessel to justify the cash flow. I am the buyer. I buy the boat with the family money, which is actually just recycled money. And I sign a contract saying the marina manages it. It washes the books. It makes the numbers look real for the auditor. And you are the patsy, I said. Evan looked down at his shoes. Dad said he would clear my debts. He said he would pay off my credit cards and the loan shark in Florida if I signed the papers. I didn't have a choice. Claire, I am drowning. So you were willing to let Lila wait, I said. You were willing to let her suffer so you could help Dad cover up embezzlement. I tried to tell him to pay you first, Evan pleaded. I told him. I said, give Claire the money. We can fudge the boat date. But he was terrified. He said the audit timeline was locked. He said if we missed the window, he goes to jail. Mom goes to jail. He looked at me, tears streaming down his face. I never wanted to hurt Lila. I swear, I am sick over it. But he is Dad. What was I supposed to do? I looked at my brother. I saw the charismatic drifter I had known my whole life. I saw the weakness that I had mistaken for bad luck. It wasn't bad luck, It was a lack of spine. "You were supposed to be a man," I said. "Please," he begged. "Don't send those emails. If you trigger an investigation now, it all comes out. The charity, the marina, everything. They will go to prison. Claire, our parents. They stole from a charity," I said. "They stole from people who actually needed help." "I know," he sobbed. "I know. And they used my name," I said. "The account ending in 0442. That is me, isn't it?" Evan nodded miserably. "Dad opened it years ago, to move smaller amounts. He said it was a trust for you. I didn't know until this week that he was using it for the marina transfers." I felt a coldness settle over me that was deeper than the winter air. My father had made me an accomplice without my knowledge. He had woven me into his crime. "Go home, Evan," I said. "Claire, what are you going to do?" "I am going back upstairs," I said. "I am going to hold my daughter's hand, and I am going to think." "Please," he said again. I turned my back on him. I walked back toward the hospital entrance, the automatic doors sliding open to welcome me back into the warmth. I walked to the elevator. I pressed the button for the 4th floor. I had the truth now. The boat wasn't favoritism. It was a frantic, criminal attempt to plug a hole in a sinking ship. My parents weren't just mean. They were desperate. They were felons in waiting. And by using my name, by trying to drag me into their strategy, they had given me the weapon that would destroy them. I walked into Lila's room. She was awake, watching a cartoon about a sponge. She smiled when she saw me. "Hi, Mom," she said. "Barnaby missed you." "I missed him too," I said. I sat down in the chair. I picked up my phone. I looked at the drafts folder where I had saved the email to the IRS whistleblower tip line. I looked at Lila. If I sent it, I blew up my family. I sent my parents to prison. I ruined Evan. If I didn't send it, I remained a silent partner in a crime. I left my name on a dirty account. I let them continue to steal from the community. But more than that, if I didn't send it, I let them win. I let them control me. I let them think that I was weak enough to be bought with silence. I wasn't weak. I was a mother who had just sold her engagement ring to save her child because her family was too busy laundering money to help. I put the phone down. I wasn't going to do it tonight. Tonight was for healing. But tomorrow? Tomorrow. The paper would speak. The week after Lila came home was a study in duality. Inside our apartment, time moved at the speed of a healing child. It was a soft, slow rhythm of chicken noodle soup, lukewarm ginger ale, and the gentle hum of cartoons. I created a fortress of pillows on the sofa. I managed the dosage schedule of her pain medication with a color-coded chart taped to the refrigerator. We watched movies about talking animals and brave princesses. I brushed her hair. I read chapters of Charlotte's Web until my voice grew hoarse. To Lila, I was just Mom, warm, present, and slightly boring. Outside the apartment, however, I was fighting a cold, silent war, while Lila napped in the afternoons. I didn't rest. I worked. On Tuesday, I drove to Pinebrook Trust Bank. It was not the bank my parents used. It was not the credit union that had sent me the terrifying letter. It was a sterile, glass-walled building in the next town over. I sat across from a banker named Marcus. I opened a new checking account in my name only. I opened a safe deposit box. Into the long, narrow metal drawer of the box, I placed my life, my birth certificate, Lila's birth certificate, her social security card, the title to my car, the receipt from the pawn shop where I had sold my ring, the printout of the declined transfer letter from the credit union. I locked the box. The key felt heavy and cold in my palm. It was the first time in my life I had truly separated my identity from the family web. I wasn't Richard and Marlene's daughter anymore. I was a sovereign entity. I went home and froze my credit reports. Experian, TransUnion, Equifax. I set the pins to random strings of numbers that had no connection to my birthday or my address. I changed every password I owned. I was locking the doors. I was pulling up the drawbridge. By Wednesday, The physical distance between my parents and me had calcified into silence. They hadn't called since Richard's threat. But silence didn't mean inactivity. I spent my nights, after Lila was asleep, dissecting the Hollow Fern Family Fund. I had the tax returns, the Form 990s, pulled up on my laptop screen. I compared them year over year. 5 years ago, the fund looked normal. Small grants to local families, $500 for a house fire, $300 for utility assistance. The expenses matched the mission. 3 years ago, the pattern changed. The revenue went up. Donations from anonymous contributors spiked, but the individual grants to families flatlined. Instead, a new category of expense appeared: program service consulting and facility management. I looked at the vendors again: Lakefront Logistics, Pikewater Holdings. I started searching for the services these companies allegedly provided. The tax form description said, Lakefront Logistics provides essential warehousing for donated goods and distribution logistics for community outreach. Warehousing? I knew the Silver Pike Marina. It was a collection of docks and a small clubhouse. There was no warehouse. There was a maintenance shed for boat repair, but certainly not a facility that required $85,000 a year in rent. And distribution logistics? The charity gave out checks, not pallets of food. Why did they need logistics? Then I found the announcement. I was searching for mentions of the charity in local news when I landed on a digital flyer for an upcoming event. The Lantern Night Benefit, a gala for the future of Hollow Fern. February 21st, Briar Glen Civic Atrium. It was a black tie event. Tickets were $200 a plate. I scanned the list of honorees. Community Chair, Marlene Watson. Financial Steward, Richard Watson. Diamond Sponsor, Silver Pike Marina. Gold Sponsor, Watson Firth. Advisory. My stomach twisted. They were throwing a party to celebrate themselves. They were using the charity to launder their reputation at the exact same time they were using it to launder money. Marlene was going to stand on a stage, wearing a gown, and accept applause for her service, while her granddaughter lay on a sofa 10 miles away. Recovering from a surgery Marlene had tried to prevent. The audacity of it was breathless. It was absolute. I took a screenshot of the flyer. I added it to the folder on my desktop labeled Evidence. On Thursday morning, I had a video call with Maya Ellery. I sat in my bedroom, blurring the background so she wouldn't see the pile of laundry I hadn't folded. The Lantern Night Benefit is a problem, Maya said, peering at me through her screen. But it is also an opportunity. It puts them in the public eye. It puts the board members in the same room. I want to know who is on the board, I said. The tax form lists my mother and 2 other people I don't know, a Robert Firth and a Susan Miller. Bob Firth is the accountant, Maya said. Watson and Firth, that tracks. He is likely the architect of the structure. Susan Miller. I will run a check on her. She might be a silent partner, or just a signature they use. I want to request the records, I said. You told me that as a member of the public, I have a right to see their governing documents. You do, Maya said, under IRS regulations. A 501c3 must make its application for exemption and its last 3 annual returns available for public inspection. They also have to provide copies of their conflict of interest policy if requested, though that is sometimes stickier. Let's ask, I said. Formally. Maya drafted the letter while we talked. It was cold, precise, and cited the specific statutes of the Internal Revenue Code. It requested the last 3 years of board meeting minutes, the conflict of interest policy, and a detailed breakdown of the program service consulting expenses. We sent it via email to the address listed on the nonprofit's filing, my mother's email, and via certified mail to the registered address. The response came 4 hours later. It wasn't from my mother. It was from an email address at Watson Firth. Ms. Watson, we are in receipt of your request. The Hollow Fern Family Fund is fully compliant with all state and federal regulations. Your request for specific board minutes and vendor details falls outside the scope of mandatory public disclosure for non-members. We view this inquiry as harassment stemming from a personal family dispute. Any further communication should be directed to our legal counsel. Please cease and desist all direct contact with the Board of Directors regarding this matter. Signed, Robert Firth, CPA. They are stonewalling, Maya said when I read it to her. They are calling it harassment, I said. That is the standard defense, Maya said. They are trying to paint you as the disgruntled daughter. They want to make it personal so they can ignore the professional questions. But notice what they didn't deny? They didn't deny the relationship with the vendors. They just said you don't have a right to see the details. What do I do? We wait, Maya said. We have the refusal in writing. That goes in the file. It shows lack of transparency. If we ever have to go to the Attorney General. That email is Exhibit B. Friday brought a different kind of letter. This one came to my personal email. From my father. The subject line was restitution and healing. I opened it with trembling fingers. Lila was watching a movie about a lost fish, and the blue light of the television reflected in my dark living room. Claire, your mother and I have been doing a lot of soul-searching. We are heartbroken that things have escalated to this point. We believe that family is the most important thing, and we want to repair the breach. We understand that you felt unsupported during Lila's surgery. That was never our intention. We were managing complex asset liquidity issues that you were not privy to. However, we want to make it right. We are prepared to reimburse you for the full out-of-pocket cost of the surgery, $2,500. We will also add an additional $1,000 to help with Lila's recovery needs. Attached is a family unity agreement. It is a simple document that outlines our commitment to move forward with love and privacy. Once signed, we will wire the funds immediately. We also want to invite you to join us for 6 sessions of family mediation at the Hollow Fern Renewal Center. Pastor John has agreed to facilitate. We need to heal our hearts. Love, Dad. I opened the attachment. It was not a family unity agreement. It was a settlement and non-disclosure agreement, dressed up in emotional language. Clause 3. The recipient agrees to keep all financial matters of the grantor private and confidential. Clause 4. The recipient agrees to refrain from making any disparaging remarks about the grantor, the Hollow Fern Family Fund, or associated business entities to third parties, regulatory bodies, or on social media. Clause 5. The recipient agrees to withdraw any pending inquiries with financial institutions regarding family-linked accounts. I stared at the screen. They were trying to buy my silence for $3,500. They thought I was cheap. They thought my integrity had a price tag, and that the price tag was the cost of a surgery they should have helped with in the first place. And the counseling? The Hollow Fern Renewal Center was run by their church. Pastor John was my father's golf partner. It wouldn't be counseling. It would be an ambush where I was told to honor my father and mother and repent for my rebellious spirit. I felt a cold, hard laughter bubble up in my chest. It wasn't funny, but it was absurd. I hit reply. Dad, I am willing to attend family counseling with a licensed, secular therapist of our mutual choosing in Pinebrook. Not Hollow Fern. I will not sign the agreement. I do not require reimbursement for the surgery. I paid for it myself. My silence is not for sale. And my inquiries into the identity theft regarding my name at the credit union will proceed until the matter is resolved by the bank. Claire, I sent it. I didn't argue. I didn't scream. I just said no. On Saturday, Tessa came over with a lasagna. She sat on the floor with Lila and played a card game for an hour, making Lila giggle until she got the hiccups. Then, when Lila went back to her room to rest, Tessa and I stood in the kitchen. You look like a ghost, Tessa said, leaning against the counter. I feel like a detective, I said. A very tired detective. I showed her the family unity agreement. Tessa read it and let out a low whistle. Clause 4. That is the kicker. Associated business entities. They are terrified you are going to talk about the marina. They know I know, I said. Or at least, they know I suspect. I saw the poster for Lantern Night, Tessa said quietly. Yeah, I said. Mom is the community chair. Claire, Tessa said. crossing her arms. You know, half the school board is going to be there. The mayor is going to be there. If this blows up, if you expose them, it is going to be a nuclear event in Briar Glen. Your parents will be pariahs. They stole money, I said. They are using a charity as a piggy bank. I know, Tessa said. I am not defending them. I am just making sure you are ready for the blast radius. If you take them down, you take down their reputation. Yes, but you also become the daughter who destroyed her parents. People in this town, they like their comfortable lies. They might not thank you for the truth. I don't want them to thank me, I said. I just want to be safe. I want to know that my name isn't on a fraudulent account. I want to know that they can't hurt Lila again. Just be careful, Tessa said. When people with big egos get cornered, they bite, and they bite hard. I know, I said. I bought a lock for the mailbox. Tessa looked at me, her eyes sad. God, Claire, you shouldn't have to live like this. I won't live like this forever, I said. Just until the truth is out. Sunday afternoon. My phone buzzed. It was a text from a number I didn't recognize. Meet me at the north end of the hospital parking lot. Row G. Half an hour. Please. E. Evan. I debated not going. I debated blocking the number, but I needed to know. I asked my neighbor, Mrs. Higgins, to come sit with Lila for 45 minutes. Just a quick errand, I told her. I drove to the hospital. The parking lot was familiar territory now. I parked in row G, near the back, where the snowplows piled the gray, dirty slush. Evan was sitting in his car, a flashy rental sedan. He looked worse than he had on Tuesday. He hadn't shaved. He was wearing a hoodie pulled up over his head. I got out of my car and walked to his passenger window. I didn't get in. I just tapped on the glass. He rolled it down. The heat blasted out, smelling of stale cigarettes. Claire, he said. Get in. It is freezing. I will stand, I said. What do you want? I can't sleep, he said. He looked at his hands, which were gripping the steering wheel. I can't eat. I keep thinking about the audit. I keep thinking about jail. You should have thought about that before you agreed to be their straw man, I said. I didn't know how deep it was, he said. I thought it was just creative accounting. But then I saw the texts. I saw how they talk about it. What texts? He fumbled with his phone. His hands were shaking so badly he almost dropped it. Dad and Bob Firth, and Mom, we have a group chat for the project. They think it is secure. He held the phone up. I squinted at the screen. Richard, the transfer to Evan needs to happen Tuesday. Label it boat acquisition, capital expense. Bob Firth. Make sure the invoice from Silver Pike matches the withdrawal amount. We need to show the funds leaving the nonprofit and entering the asset column immediately. Marlene. Should we route it through the vendor list first, or direct? Richard. Route it through Lakefront Logistics. Less obvious. Then Evan pays Lakefront for consulting and keeps the difference for the purchase. My breath hitched in the cold air. There it was, in black and white. Conspiracy, money laundering, intent. Send them to me, I said. What? Evan looked terrified. No, if I send them, they will know it was me. I am the only other person in the chat. Evan, I said, leaning in. If this goes down, you are the one holding the bag. You are the one buying the boat. You are the one signing the papers. Unless you become a witness, unless you provide evidence that you were coerced. They are our parents, he whispered. They are criminals, I said, and they are using you, just like they used me. Send me the screenshots, right now. He looked at me. His eyes were watery, weak, and desperate. He wanted someone to save him. He had always wanted someone to save him. If I do this, he started. If you do this, you have a chance, I said. If you don't, you go down with the ship. He tapped the screen. Once, twice, 3 times. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Image sent, image sent, image sent. I pulled my phone out. I checked the images. They were clear. They showed the names. They showed the dates. Thank you, I said. Don't put them on the internet, Evan begged. Please, just use them to stop it. Don't burn everything down. I will do what I have to do, I said. I turned and walked away. I didn't look back. I heard him start his engine, the aggressive roar of the rental car sounding pathetic in the empty lot. I drove home. I uploaded the screenshots to the secure cloud folder. I printed 2 copies. One went into the evidence folder on my desk. One went into my purse. I had the map. I had the motive. And now, I had the smoking gun. I called Maya. I have texts, I said. Explicit instructions on how to launder the money through the boat purchase. Okay, Maya said. Her voice changed. It became sharper. That changes the posture. That isn't just a civil dispute. That is criminal intent. I am not going to post them on Facebook, I said. I am not going to give them to the newspaper. Good, Maya said. What is your plan? The Lantern Night benefit, I said. The compliance officer for the credit union is a sponsor. The city auditor will be there. I am going to walk in. I am going to hand them a packet, copies of the texts, copies of the tax returns, copies of the decline letter, and then I am going to walk out. That is dramatic, Maya said. No, I said. Dramatic would be taking the microphone. Dramatic would be making a scene. This is bureaucratic. I am handing the evidence to the people whose job it is to investigate. I am bypassing my parents entirely. It is risky, Maya said. If you walk into that room, you are declaring war. The war started when they told me to reschedule my daughter's surgery, I said. That night, after I had put Lila to bed, my phone rang. It was Richard. I let it go to voicemail. I sat at the kitchen table, watching the phone vibrate on the wood. It buzzed and buzzed, like an angry insect. Then it stopped. A moment later, the voicemail notification appeared. I picked up the phone. I held it to my ear. Claire, my father's voice said. It was different than I had ever heard it. It wasn't the voice of the corporate manager. It wasn't the voice of the dismissive father. It was the voice of a man who was cornered and baring his teeth. Evan told me you met. He wouldn't say what you talked about, but he was shaking. Listen to me very carefully. If you do this, if you take whatever you think you have and try to use it against us, you will have no family left. No mother, no father, no brother. You will be an orphan. We will wash our hands of you. You will never set foot in our house again. You will never see a dime of inheritance. You will be dead to us. He paused. I could hear his heavy breathing. Choose wisely, Claire. You can have your pride, or you can have your family. You can't have both. The recording ended. I sat there in the silence of my kitchen. The refrigerator hummed. The radiator clanked. You will be an orphan. It was the ultimate threat. The threat that kept children in line. The fear of abandonment. I looked down the hallway toward Lila's room. The door was cracked open. I could see the soft glow of her nightlight. I thought about the bravery jar. I thought about the way she squeezed my hand when the nurse put the IV in. I thought about how she trusted me to make the world safe for her. If I kept their secret, I kept my family, but my family was a lie. My family was a group of people who preyed on a charity and threatened a child's health for a boat. If I exposed them, I lost them. But if I lost them, I saved Lila from ever being used by them again. I saved her from the toxicity, the manipulation, the conditional love. I looked at the phone. I pressed save on the voicemail. It was evidence of intimidation. Then I put the phone down. I walked down the hall. I pushed Lila's door open. She was asleep, one arm thrown over her head, Barnaby tucked under her chin. She looked peaceful. She looked whole. I pulled the blanket up to her chin. I smoothed her hair. I choose you, I whispered into the dark. I choose us. I had no family left. No. I looked at my daughter. I had exactly the family I needed. And tomorrow, at Lantern Night, I was going to protect it. The Briar Glen Civic Atrium was a cathedral of glass and steel, designed to make people feel small and important at the same time. Tonight, It was transformed. Strings of white fairy lights hung from the rafters, mimicking a starry night. Round tables were draped in navy blue linen, centered with floating candles in crystal bowls. The air smelled of roasted rosemary chicken, expensive cologne, and the peculiar metallic scent of high-stakes social climbing. I stood at the entrance, gripping my clutch. Inside the bag was not lipstick or a compact mirror, but a folded sheaf of papers. I was not wearing a gala gown. I wore a simple black dress I had owned for 5 years. Paired with a gray blazer, I looked less like a guest and more like a staff member, or perhaps a process server. That was the point. I was not here to celebrate. I was here to work. A volunteer at the check-in table smiled at me. She was wearing a sash that said Hollow Fern Family Fund. "Name?" she asked, her pen hovering over the list. "Claire Watson," I said. "I am not staying for dinner. I just need to speak with one of the sponsors." "Oh," she said, her smile faltering slightly. "Well, the program is about to start. Mrs. Watson, your mother, right, is receiving the Beacon Award in 20 minutes. "I know," I said. "I will be quick." I walked past her, into the hum of the room. There were 300 people inside. I saw the mayor shaking hands near the bar. I saw the president of the school board laughing at a joke. And in the center of the room, near the head table, I saw them. Marlene was radiant in a silver sequined gown, her hair coiffed into a stiff, perfect helmet. She was holding court, touching the arm of a local developer, throwing her head back in a laugh that I knew was practiced in the mirror. Richard stood beside her, wearing a tuxedo that strained slightly at the buttons. He looked flushed, his eyes darting around the room, scanning for threats. He didn't see me. He was looking for Evan, or maybe the police. He didn't expect the threat to walk in wearing a 5-year-old dress and sensible heels. I moved along the perimeter of the room. I wasn't looking for my parents. I was looking for the machinery that kept them running. I spotted the table sponsored by the Briar Glen Community Credit Union. It was near the front, close to the stage. Seated there was a man I recognized from my research, Marcus Henderson, the chief risk officer. Next to him was a woman I didn't know, but her name tag identified her as the city auditor. Perfect. I waited until a server placed a salad in front of Marcus. I walked up to the table. I didn't smile. I didn't apologize for interrupting. "Mr. Henderson?" I said. He looked up, a forkful of greens halfway to his mouth. "Yes." "My name is Claire Watson," I said. "I am Richard Watson's daughter." His face relaxed into a polite, corporate smile. "Oh, wonderful. Your parents have put on quite a night. Are you enjoying the event?" "I am not here for the event," I said. "I received a letter from your institution this week regarding a declined transfer of $5,000 from an account in my name, an account ending in 0442. The smile froze. "I am afraid I can't discuss client business here, Ms. Watson. If you call my office on Monday—" "This isn't client business," I said, keeping my voice low, below the swell of the jazz quartet playing in the corner. "It is fraud business. I didn't open that account, and I have reason to believe it is being used to funnel assets from the charity hosting this event into a private holding company to bypass an audit." The woman next to him, the city auditor, set her wine glass down. She looked at me sharply. "What did you say?" she asked. I opened my clutch. I took out the packet. It was thin, just 5 pages. The first page was the decline letter from the credit union. The second was the screenshot of Evan's text messages with Richard, detailing the boat purchase as a way to hide funds. The third was the tax return page showing the $85,000 payment to Lakefront Logistics. The fourth was the corporate filing linking Lakefront to Silver Pike Marina. The fifth was a copy of my police report filed that morning for identity theft. I slid the packet onto the table, right between the butter dish and the bread basket. "The texts are dated this week," I said. "They discuss using the boat purchase to create a capital asset on the marina's books to satisfy the city lease renewal. The money is coming from the nonprofit, and they are using an account in my name to layer the transfer." Marcus Henderson picked up the papers. He read the first page. His face went pale. He flipped to the second page. He read the text message where Richard instructed Evan to route it through Lakefront Logistics. He didn't look at me. He looked at the city auditor. She was reading over his shoulder. "Marcus," she said. Her voice was ice cold. "Is the credit union financing the marina lease?" "We hold the mortgage," Marcus whispered. "Then you have a problem," she said. Marcus stood up. He didn't excuse himself. He took his phone out of his pocket and walked rapidly toward the exit doors, dialing as he went. The city auditor looked at me. "May I keep this?" "It is a copy," I said. "I have the originals." "Good," she said. "You should probably step back, Ms. Watson." I nodded and retreated to the shadows near the catering entrance. The chain reaction was slow at first, almost imperceptible. Marcus was outside on the phone. The city auditor was texting furiously. Then, a man in a suit, someone from the Marina Board, I guessed, walked over to the auditor's table. She said something to him. He frowned. She showed him the paper. His face drained of color. He looked at the head table. He looked at Richard. He walked over to my father. I watched from 20 feet away. I saw the man lean down and whisper into Richard's ear. Richard's reaction was a study in terror. He didn't explode. He didn't argue. He simply froze. His face went tight, the muscles in his jaw locking. He looked at the man. Then he looked at the exit where Marcus had gone. It was the look of a man who hears the ice cracking beneath his feet. He started to stand up. But then the lights dimmed. A spotlight hit the stage. "Ladies and gentlemen," the MC's voice boomed over the speakers, "please take your seats. It is time to honor the heart and soul of the Hollow Fern Family Fund. Please welcome our community chair, Marlene Watson." Applause rippled through the room. It was polite, enthusiastic applause. They didn't know. They didn't know that the man standing next to the auditor was currently explaining that the Heart and Soul was a shell company. Marlene stood up. She smoothed her dress. She didn't look at Richard. She didn't see his panic. She only saw the spotlight. She walked up the stairs to the stage. She took the microphone. She beamed. "Thank you," she said. Her voice was breathless, practiced. "Oh, thank you so much. You know, when we started this fund, we didn't do it for recognition. We did it for family. Because family is the bedrock of everything we do." I stood in the dark, feeling a wave of nausea roll over me. "Sacrifice," Marlene continued, her voice trembling with manufactured emotion. "That is a word we use a lot. But what does it mean? It means giving of yourself so that others can rise. It means putting the needs of the community above your own comfort. Sacrifice." She was talking about sacrifice while wearing a dress that cost $3,000, paid for by a husband who had stolen my identity. She was talking about community needs when she had told me to let my daughter's kidneys scar because the money was tied up in a fake boat deal. It was surreal. It was a hallucination of greed. "I see my husband Richard down there," Marlene said. Gesturing to the table, the spotlight swung to Richard. He wasn't smiling. He was sitting stone still, staring at the tablecloth. The man from the Marina Board was still whispering to him, urgent and angry. "He is my rock," Marlene said, faltering slightly as she noticed Richard wasn't looking at her. "He manages the stewardship of our gifts." A door opened behind me. A blast of cold air hit my back. I turned. It was Evan. He was wearing a suit, but his tie was crooked, and his shirt was unbuttoned at the collar. He looked like he had been sleeping in his car. He saw me standing in the shadows. He stopped. "Claire," he whispered. "You came," I said. "I couldn't stay away," he said. He looked at the stage, where Mom was rambling about planting seeds for the future. "Did you do it?" he asked. "Did you tell them?" "I gave the evidence to the credit union auditor," I said, "and the city auditor. They are reading your texts right now." Evan closed his eyes. He let out a long, shaky breath. He didn't look angry. He looked relieved. "Good," he said. "You need to be ready. I said. When this stops, they are going to ask questions. I am ready, Evan said. He opened his eyes. They were wet. I almost let Lila get hurt. Claire, I was so scared of Dad that I almost let a little girl go into surgery without help. I can't live with that. I don't care about the boat. I don't care about the money. I can't be that guy. His voice cracked on the word guy. He sounded like he was 12 years old again, standing over a broken vase, terrified of what Dad would do. You aren't that guy, I said. Not anymore. On stage, Marlene was winding down. And so, we ask you to open your hearts tonight, to give generously, because every dollar you give goes directly to a family in crisis. A murmur went through the room. It wasn't applause. It was a ripple of confusion. People were checking their phones. The news was traveling. Maybe Marcus had called someone on the board. Maybe the auditor had sent an email. In a room full of bankers and lawyers, financial scandal travels faster than light. A man in a dark suit walked onto the stage. He wasn't part of the program. He walked right up to the MC and whispered something. The MC looked alarmed. He signaled to the sound booth. Marlene was still talking. And we hope to expand our reach to... Thank you, Mrs. Watson, the MC said, stepping up to the mic, his voice cutting her off. If we could just pause for a moment. Marlene looked confused. I haven't finished my acknowledgments. We have a slight administrative issue, the MC said. Please, everyone, enjoy your dessert. We will resume shortly. He practically ushered Marlene away from the podium. She looked stunned, blinking in the harsh stage lights. Richard stood up abruptly. He shoved his chair back. It fell over with a loud clatter that echoed in the suddenly quiet room. He saw me. He didn't see the auditor. He didn't see Marcus. He saw me, standing near the catering door, next to Evan. He walked toward us. He walked fast, his face a mask of fury so pure it looked painful. I didn't move. I put a hand on Evan's arm to steady him. Richard reached us. He didn't yell. He hissed. It was a low, venomous sound, meant only for us. What have you done? He demanded. His eyes were wild. I saw you talking to Henderson. What did you give him? The truth, I said. I gave him the paper trail. Dad? You stupid girl, Richard spat. You have no idea what you have started. You are ruining everything. The deal was done. The money was moving. We were going to pay it back. With whose money? I asked. New donations? That is a Ponzi scheme. Dad? It is business, he snarled. He grabbed my arm, his fingers digging into my bicep. I did this for us, for the legacy. And you petty, ungrateful child. You blew it up because you couldn't wait 3 months for a surgery. I looked at his hand on my arm. Then I looked at his eyes. I didn't feel afraid. I felt a profound, aching sadness. He really believed it. He really believed that his fraud was noble and my daughter's health was an inconvenience. I pulled my arm away. I stepped closer to him, so I was inches from his face. I didn't ruin anything, I said. My voice was steady. It was the voice of the person who had managed the budget, paid the bills, and held the hand of a frightened child while he bought a ghost boat. You ruined it when you chose a boat over my child, I said. The words hung in the air between us. Richard's mouth opened, but no sound came out. The truth of it, the simple, brutal moral math, seemed to strike him physically. He looked at Evan. And you, Richard whispered, you let her do this? I helped her, Evan said. His voice shook, but he stood his ground. I sent her the texts. Dad, it is over. Richard looked at his son. He looked at me, and for the first time in my life, I saw him look small, the corporate bluster, the patriarchal rage. It all evaporated, leaving just a frightened old man in a cheap tuxedo. Mr. Watson? It was the city auditor. She had walked up behind him, flanked by 2 security guards from the venue. We need to have a conversation in the office, she said. Now, Richard looked at her. He looked back at the stage. where Marlene was standing alone, clutching her award, looking lost. "I need to tell my wife," Richard said. "We will bring her," the auditor said. "Please, sir, don't make a scene." Richard slumped. He turned and walked with them, his shoulders hunched. The room was buzzing now. The rumors were flying. Embezzlement, fraud. The daughter turned them in. I stood there, watching him go. My phone vibrated. It was Maya. "Claire," she said when I answered, "Marcus Henderson just called me. He is freezing the accounts, all of them, the charity, the marina, and your parents' personal assets. He is filing a suspicious activity report with the Treasury tonight." "Okay," I said. "It is going to be a storm," Maya said. "The Attorney General will likely be involved by Monday. You need to go home. You need to be with Lila. Don't talk to anyone else. Keep it factual. Keep it minimal." "I know," I said. "I am leaving." "You did the right thing," Maya said. "I know it doesn't feel like it, but you stopped a moving train." "It feels like a train wreck," I said. "That is because you were on the tracks," she said. "Go home, Claire." I hung up. I turned to Evan. "I am going," I said. "Are you okay?" "I don't know," Evan said. He looked at the empty hallway where Dad had disappeared. "I think I have to go talk to them. I have to tell the truth." "Do it," I said. "It is the only way out." He nodded. He looked at me, and for a second, he looked like the big brother I used to adore. Before the money and the expectations twisted him, "Give Lila a hug for me," he said. "I will." I walked toward the exit. I had to pass the stage to get to the main doors. Marlene was coming down the stairs. She looked dazed. The MC was ignoring her, talking to the DJ. She saw me. Her eyes widened. She hurried over, her sequins rattling. Her mascara was smudged beneath one eye, a black tear that ruined the perfection. "Claire," she whispered. She grabbed my hand. Her fingers were ice cold. "What is happening?" "Richard is with security. They said something about the bank accounts. They are freezing the money." "Mom," I said. "Why?" she asked. She looked genuinely baffled. "We fixed it. We fixed the boat problem." "You didn't fix it," I said. "You broke the law." She recoiled as if I had slapped her. "How can you say that? After everything we have done for you? This is a misunderstanding. You must have told them something wrong. You are confused." "I am not confused," I said. "I gave them the proof." She stared at me. The realization hit her slowly, seeping in like poison. "You?" she whispered. "You did this? To your own mother? On her big night?" "It wasn't your night, Mom," I said. "It was a fraud." "We could have handled this privately," she hissed, her voice rising, the old manipulation kicking in. "We are family. You don't air dirty laundry in front of the city. We could have worked something out." I looked at her. I looked at the woman who had asked me to sign a contract to see my own money, the woman who had taken selfies next to my daughter's hospital bed. "I tried," I said softly. "What?" "I tried to handle it privately," I said. "I called you. I begged you. I told you she was in pain. I told you the surgery was time-sensitive." I leaned in closer. "You asked me to reschedule my child," I said. "You asked me to let her suffer so you could buy a tugboat to hide your theft. That was the moment you decided privacy didn't matter." Marlene looked at me. Her mouth opened, but no words came. She looked stunned, not angry, but truly, deeply shocked. It was as if she was hearing the sentence for the first time, as if she had rewritten the history in her head to make herself the hero, and I had just shattered the mirror. "Claire," she whispered. "Goodbye, Mom," I said. I walked past her. I walked out of the atrium, past the check-in desk, past the security guards. I pushed open the heavy glass doors and stepped into the night. The air was freezing, sharp and clean. It bit at my exposed arms. But it felt good. It felt real. I walked to my car. I got in. I sat there for a moment in the silence. My phone was blowing up. Texts from Tessa, voicemails from relatives who had heard the rumors. I turned the phone off. I started the car. I didn't know what would happen tomorrow. I didn't know if my parents would go to jail. I didn't know if Evan would be charged. I didn't know if the town would hate me or herald me. I looked at the empty passenger seat where the folder had been. It was gone. The weight was gone. I thought of Lila, sleeping safe in her bed, her scars healing, her future open. I put the car in drive. I didn't know what came next, but as I pulled out of the parking lot, leaving the glittering lights of the GALA in my rearview mirror, I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't controlled anymore. I was driving home. Thank you for listening to this story. I hope Claire's journey resonated with you. It is a hard thing to stand up to the people who raised you, but sometimes the truth is the only way to protect the ones you love. I would love to hear from you. Please leave a comment below and tell me where you are listening from. I am always amazed to see how far these stories travel. And if you enjoyed this series, please subscribe to Revenge Stories for more dramas about family, betrayal, and justice. Share your thoughts in English in the comments. I read every single one. Thank you for being part of this community.